Welcome to America's Day at the Races Sunday coverage on Fox Sports 2. It's brought to you in part by America's Best Racing for the love of the race. Visit americasbestracing.net today. Gorgeous Sunday afternoon in New York and a terrific afternoon for racing at Belmont at the Big A. We got this tremendous trio on the desk. Greg Wolf, Acacia Clement, New York Racing Association handicapper, Andy Serling. Good to see you both.
Yeah, good to be here. It's always fun when we get a chance to share the desk together. I am being accustomed to sliding down the desk a little bit more here, but a lot of fun. And Andy, really looking forward to the 2-year-old New York Breds in the spotlight.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to all the racing here in the fall. I think there's some interesting races coming up throughout the card. We have the stakes early in the card, but some good racing going on. The weather continues to be terrific.
And we have a 1-9 favorite in one of those stakes Acacia was talking about with the Angels. Incredibly short price off an impressive debut for Linda Rice at the Saratoga meeting. We'll get into that field in just a moment. We're fast and firm, 4 minutes away from the opener on the card. Here's what's ahead, presented by Claiborne Farms, so that Joseph A. Jimmo will start things off. Bertram at Bongard for the boys that get their turn in race 3. And the start of the late pick 5 begins in the 5th this afternoon. 9-race card on this Sunday afternoon. You can play it all by getting signed up and started with Naira Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Promo code MATCH200. Punch that in for new members at sign up. You get that $200 deposit match new customer bonus. There it is again, that code to punch in. Again, NairaBets.com, and you're good to go and play away, including an early pick 5 that starts right here. So here's a look at the odds for the first race. And Acacia with the Angels, incredibly short number right now.
She is, but she won by 11.5 lengths on debut. And typically with Linda Rice, not first-time starters like that is not something we usually anticipate.
Jose Ortiz back aboard for start number 2. Has the rail at that short price. Trail of Gold, blinkers on.
And she does get a chance to try to make amends for the Seeking the Ante last time out. She was far back. We'll see if the blinkers can have her be a little bit more forward.
Valtellina won first time out for Ray Handel.
Good trip, but very professional. Winning at 7 first time out, not easy to do, but has to get a lot faster to beat with the Angels, who's not only faster, but has a big pace advantage.
Carmen's Candy Jar, 5-1 for Todd Pletcher.
Bit of an odd trip in the Seeking the Ante, stumbling, then losing some ground, did run on for second.
And She's Artiz will get on dirt for the first time.
She's after Yo Banana Boy, so has a dirt sprint pedigree. And I don't blame Michelle Giangilio for taking a shot here, because other than the favorite, it's not that strong a field. And why not find out right here, right now in a race like this, whether or not she can be competitive on dirt.
Well, let's hear how they look warming up. We're 3 minutes to post. Let's head downstairs to Maggie Wolfendale. Hi, Maggie.
Hey, Greg. Hey, guys. As we have a gorgeous day on tap, the September weather has been on point. Well done, Mother Nature. As we'll take a look at your prohibitive favorite here in this Joseph A. Jimmo, that is not the one with the Angels. And looking at her, I've got to say, when I first walked into the paddock, I felt some reservations about getting to the 7 furlongs because she is a little bit more compact, shorter coupled, really built downhill, and a bit smaller against her rival that's already won at today's distance, whom I'll get to in a moment. But then I watched them warm up, and I said, oh yeah, this is the with the Angels that won by 11 plus lengths first time out. This is one of the best moving fillies or horses that we'll see on today's card. She really covers a lot of ground for being a little bit more on the petite side, but not, the petite side because that's who she is. It's just she is still a 2-year-old. She's a juvenile, and there's some growing still for her to do. But definitely a deserved favorite, though I've got, like I said, I think Valtellina, number 3, could be a formidable foe to her, because in talking with Acacia, she covered her first race. She felt as though she was big, mature, really liked her, but maybe could use a start from a fitness perspective. Well, that win in first effort really, I think, moved her up. She's very fit and defined today. She's awfully sharp as well in the paddock, but I still am going to go with the Angels, guys, because of the warm-ups. She just really wowed me on track.
She ran a huge number in that debut. That was at 6 furlongs. Now we'll try 7, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, Valtellina, 9-1, did win in that 7/8 in the debut.
Yeah, 1-9 is going overboard on the one, and even though we all like this horse, it's not a horse we're betting on at 1-9, and it gives you a better price on the others. I don't have a knock on Valtellina. I just wonder if she's likely in her second start to get enough better to beat the one. So if you're betting her, you're just really hoping that the one doesn't show up. And frankly, I'd rather take the experience with Carmen's Candy Jar for the second horse in this race over Valtellina, who might have just been really ready to go first time out.
And I think you bring up an interesting point, too, because sometimes you do see that with 2-year-olds if maybe they're cranked up. But to Maggie's point, as she was saying, Valtellina, from just a pure fitness standpoint, looked like she was one that would improve with racing and certainly has already shown the 7 furlongs, no problem for her. I think that she is likely the biggest threat to your heavy favorite. But I think in the post parade too, Greg, you brought up an interesting point. If distance is a question for a couple, you've got She's Artiz, who's cutting back, who does have a pedigree being by Munnings, have to Yo Banana Boy, who's a dirt sprint winner, to suggest that she could maybe handle it if she can. Distance certainly not going to be a problem for her cutting back.
No, I mean, listen, she's a huge price. If you want to take a shot, I think those are reasonable points. The other thing to point out about the one is, on paper, assuming a clean break, she completely controls this race. There's absolutely nobody in here that has shown an iota of speed. So you're talking about potentially the best horse having a gigantic pace advantage, and that equates to what I still think is an underlay at 1-9. I don't think second-time starters should be 1-9, but here we are.
She was impressive first time out, though.
She was. She should be, we expect, alone on the lead. And there she is stepping into the gate. We kick off this Sunday card with this Joseph A. Jimma, 2-year-old fillies, going 7/8 of a mile. Let's send it upstairs. Chris Griffin, the call.
Valtellina, Carmen's Candy Jar. She's Artiz. Is in. All set for the 31st running of the Joseph A. Jimma. And they're off. With the Angels breaks very quickly. It's With the Angels right to the front, is up by a full length and a half now. Up on the far outside, there is She's Our Tiz in that second grouping with Valtellina in between horses. And now Valtellina is going to stalk from second, taken back just a touch is Carmen's Candy Jar. The early trailer was touch squeezed at the start, is 6 lengths off the lead. That's Trail of Gold. They're chasing With the Angels. With the Angels has the lead, went 23.40 for the opening quarter mile. Valtellina stalking still from second. Carmen's Candy Jar has picked up a spot towards the inside of She's Our Tiz, who's trying to keep up, is now fourth. Less than 4 furlongs to go, and Trail of Gold is still 6 lengths the trailer. With the Angels and Jose Ortiz doing it very easily, well into the far turn now, is fully in command. Right there is Valtellina, is now being encouraged to move forward, 47 seconds flat for the half-mile time. Carmen's Candy Jar is moved within range, is still 3.5 off the leader. With the Angels is in hand, is just cruising right along here, is out in the center of the racetrack and reaches the top of the stretch and has barely been asked. With the Angels is just galloping along, approaching a final furlong. Jose Ortiz took a long look back. No dangers in sight as they are approaching the final 16th, just encouraging With the Angels to kind of sprint clear now inside the final 16th. No doubt an impressive winner. With the Angels wins the Jimma dominantly. Valtellina second, Carmen's Candy Jar, Trail of Gold, and She's Artiz in 1 minute 24 seconds flat.
With the Angels does not disappoint, and maybe she was the right price after that performance.
She was cruising. She got very comfortable on the front end, too. But Jose Ortiz was aggressive with her. So take a look at the start, and you're going to see that he does kind of come in a little bit and squeezes back the 2 Trail of Gold. Trail of Gold was probably going to be coming from off the pace anyway, Andy, but you could see the intent from Jose right off the bat.
Yeah, it did seem like he came out, whether or not it really mattered a lot. We'll take a look at the head-on to see. And he came out.
Yep.
And he came to got a pointer to come out, to be honest with you. And not really sure why he was worried about taking the 2 out at the start. She didn't look on paper to be his chief competition, but that's what happened. Regardless of that, I think the one thing to keep in mind is the final time of 1:24.04. Let's see how that compares to boys, because make no mistake, she would have been an odds-on favorite against the boys in race number 3. And I'm not so sure we're not looking at a filly that at some point she's going to likely go to the Maid of the Mist, which is the New York Bred Showcase 2-year-old race at a mile, see how far she goes. But you wonder, I mean, the way she's winning, Linda's got to be thinking about open company with her. That was impressive.
After this, you don't think the temptation is open company next time?
Well, the problem is the Brezette's in 2 weeks. So she's not going to go there, and the Maid of the Mist is a bigger purse than the Tempted, so why would she go to the Tempted over the Maid of the Mist at similar time periods? And I think the Maid of the Mist is probably $200,000, so she's likely to go there. The question is after that, I don't think she's a horse they're going to look to go a mile and 1/8 in the Demoiselle, but maybe they look to run her against open company, whether it's this year or next year. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Let's go through some of the 2-year-old fillies we've seen so far. She's in the conversation, not at the very top, but her 82 buyer was 5 points lower than the Spinaway got. So we're not exactly talking about a horse that doesn't have the potential to be one of the better horses we've seen so far in the 2-year-old fillies.
Makes things exciting, and you brought up the point too, Andy, that Jose Ortiz, who's been riding in Kentucky, is not based right here in New York at the moment. Coming up to, yes, he's on one of the favorites in the boys race a little bit later in the Birchman at Bongard, but I think it was really for this filly who he was aboard first time out, and obviously works closely with Linda, works a lot of the horses. I'm sure knows this filly very, very well, and you would imagine he does not want to miss out on a chance to ride this one.
Yeah, and there's no hurry. When you think about the number of 3-year-old stakes we have for sprinters. Go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
1, 3, 4, 2. We'll come back. We'll talk more about it after a break. Boys get their turn. Bertram at Bongard in race 3 right after this. Stay with us.
Welcome back. And Welcome back, and thanks for joining us here on America's Day at the Races. Stakes action to kick off this card, Belmont from the Big A, and it was the Joseph A. Gemma, but it was a walk in the park for the one with the Angels. And please be joined by winning trainer Linda Rice. Linda, this filly moves so beautifully.
She really does, you know, and we've been so impressed with her since we first saw her at the sales, and her workouts, her race, you know, that's probably her biggest asset.
Did you have any concern about the 7 furlongs for her?
I really didn't. She's just trained too well to think that she couldn't go from 6 to 7.
With the blowout wins that she's had, I know it's been against inferior New York bred rivals at the moment. Do you think about any open company races for her?
Well, the next options for us would be to hold off for the Maiden Mist, go in a mile at the end of October, or we may shoot big and go for the Frisette. It's not completely out of the question. It's back a little quicker than we would like, but it's right here at home. And, you know, it's grade 1. You get a chance to get a filly, get either placing or, you know, maybe a win in a grade 1. That's hard to pass up.
Absolutely. Well, you've done tremendous with her so far. Congratulations here.
Thank you, Maggie.
All right, Linda Rice, Jose Ortiz, and Winning Moves Stable in the Joseph A. Gemma, and a very excited winner's circle. It was very sweet, Greg, that they were all giving her pats, and she was just soaking it all up here in the winner's circle.
Gotta be fun when you have a 2-year-old filly that has shown this kind of talent and is now 2 for 2. It looks like sky's the limit.
Absolutely, and you can just see by what Maggie was talking about, the winner's circle there, that she has a good mind on her as well. And sounds like they're considering taking that shot in the Frisette, Andy. And Linda said back a bit quick, but certainly does help with a grade 1 in your backyard.
I get it. It's 13 days from now, though. She's going to have to face Senza Parole, Parole, yeah, who's very, very fast. I get it. We'll see how it works out. It's a fast race. I'm going to be very curious to how that 1:24.04 compares to the boys in race 3. I think this will be a lot faster.
Before we get there, we have this one coming up. Starts the early pick 4, 1 mile, main track here. Fillies and mares 3 and up in this allowance optional claiming field. Fade to Gray, Sedona getting most of the money right now.
And Fade to Gray was one that was able to control things last time out, going a mile and an 1/8. And that was in a race where the second place finisher was the Chad Brown trainee that was taking a lot of money and had much more of a propensity to finish second. So I think tactically really did bode well for Fade to Gray. With the presence, Andy, of a horse like Smokin' Hot Kitty in here, can't really see the same sort of scenario happening.
I should have brought my dunce cap up because Fade to Gray to me is a dunce cap horse. She is in a 4-horse field on a very strong inside bias. She rode the bias to victory. As you said, Acacia, and I agree completely. She beat a Chad Brown horse that was getting beaten up by everybody she ran against. She had everything her own way. Maybe she outruns Smokin' Hot Kitty early. Maybe she doesn't. But I think this is a completely different scenario, and I'll be shocked if she wins this race.
17 minutes away from race 2. We'll have it for you when we come back. We'll get to the post-parade paddock report, and of course we will talk the Super Filly. Not as impressive as usual, but she got it done on her class. Torpedo Anna in the cotillion, and the Distaff is next. We'll take a look back.
Connect, a grade 1 winning millionaire, making his mark as a sire with Rattle and Roll, a grade 1 winning 2-year-old, and multiple graded stakes winner. Graded stakes winning 2-year-olds Hidden Connection and Whitwater's Rand. Graded stakes winning 3-year-old Implicated. Connect, a proven sire in the making. Standing at Lane's End Farm.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.
Race Lens is the most in-depth product in horse racing, with unique features found nowhere else. True odds, predictive analysis, and pace projection. Race Lens. It will change the way you follow horse racing and take your game to the next level.
Back with you on our Sunday coverage here on Fox Sports 2. You're watching America's Day of the Races. Brought to you by Nyra Bets, where you can play it all. Go to nyrabets.com, get signed up, started, and play along in this big four we have coming up next. Of course, yesterday, the big race, our ABR race of the week, Super Filly Torpedo Anna. She was back in action in the cotillion off that tough effort, narrow defeat to fierceness in the Travers against the boys. This one not as impressive as we've seen when she's been, Acacia, against her own division, but on her class, she eked it out.
She did. And look, I guess that's the price of success, right? We're expecting some blowout victory from Torpedo Anna. And absolutely, she is incredibly talented. She still won the race, and that's what she set out to do. A huge effort by the runner-up Gun Song from Mark Hennig as well. But I do think, yes, you have to start questioning what do you think of Torpedo Anna moving forward into the Distaff. She'll have to face older for the first time. I know that she certainly ran huge in the Travers, Andy, against the boys, but it is different at this stage of the game when you are a 3-year-old facing older horses. And I think that's just the biggest question that we're all asking. Take nothing away from how talented and what a good campaign she has had as this 3-year-old season.
If this was her first start, let's just say she won the Alabama. She didn't run the Travers, and she ran her usual dominating race over where she's been running. We'd be talking about this and saying, wow, she kind of lost a step from other races. And I know it's Parks, and Parks is always kind of a built-in excuse. It's like Tampa, right? There's always that excuse you don't run as well, but it's not complete without merit as well. She didn't run particularly well. She had a perfect trip yesterday, and she wasn't even finishing against Gun Song. Gun Song's a nice horse, but she's been just destroying those horses, and we were so used to such a level of excellence from her that this was nowhere near it. So anybody out there saying, I'm a little concerned about her going to the Breeders' Cup is being realistic. I don't know. I hope she runs her big race in the Breeders' Cup, but she's going to have to get back to her good races if she's going to beat a Nomadic.
Kenny McPeak said he didn't have her at the top of her game. We'll see. Of course, the one they really want, that is the next one. She did win this one just on how talented she is, and he thought that would be the case. Let's bring in Maggie Wolfendale, get her thoughts. Maggie, what did you think about what you saw yesterday in the cotillion?
Well, as I was down there and I spoke to Kenny McPeak prior to the race, and while I don't disagree with what Andy and Acacia are saying, he also pointed out the fact that this was the very first time he ever had to ship her and run over a racetrack that she'd never trained over. And while you might say, well, that's not that big of a deal, Parks can be a big deal because it is a very different surface than what she's probably been used to. In that, yeah, our New York tracks are on the deeper side, but they're a lot more stickier, if that makes any sense. They don't break away like that Parks track does from a horse, and they kind of find themselves in quicksand. And two, it's the first time she's ever had to run off a van, so you know how much energy she expended traveling down to Ben Salem. And two, Brian admitted that his plan wasn't fully executed the way he wanted to and the way he wanted to ride her. So Flavien Prat, rightfully so, race riding a bit with Tarifa, keeping her in for a while. She was able to get through. But two, he never had to go to this crop either to ask her. So yes, it was a regression. She ran a 111 by her in the Travers. She went back to a 93. That was probably always going to happen. So I still wouldn't totally dismiss her in that Breeders' Cup Distaff, Greg. Maybe I'm just playing a little devil's advocate here.
Look, I felt this. I think a lot of handicappers felt the same, that this might be the vulnerable day. And whether you agree with this or not, that was she just ran a lifetime best performance against the boys, against the toughest competition she has ever faced at 1.25 miles. You have every reason to think she could rebound, and we'll see the old Torpedo Anna back next time out.
I agree. Now, how confident are we the old Torpedo Anna is going to be ready to take it to the Idiomatic? Because that's the way the old Idiomatic ran, right? She took it to horses, and she dominated them, and then hold off Adair Manor. Adair Manor may be one of the best horses in the country, and nobody's really talking about her because we haven't seen her on the East Coast. The only time we've seen her outside of California is Oaklawn. but she's out there somewhere, and she's very, very good.
Was supposed to run against the Boys Pacific Classic, had, I believe, a bruised foot, I think, but we've not heard any updates on how she's doing, but hopefully she'll be back because she's a star.
Right, she would run in the Zenyatta, I would guess, if she's going to prep for the Breeders' Cup. She's very, very good, and I just don't think there's any question. She is the horse to beat in here. As good as Torpedo Anna is, she's going to have to run her A race to beat her. Now, her A race in the Travers will beat her.
And I don't think anybody's knocking Torpedo Anna as a racehorse. She's incredibly talented, but it is a different ballgame when you're facing older.
Let's take Randomized off that list. She is out for the year.
You look at the rest of that list. So obviously, a Dare Man, you got to start with her. She's the top of the list. Torpedo Anna, for sure. Idiomatic as well. Who's, you know, there's still questions if, has she lost a step a little bit beyond those three. What did you guys think of that list?
Well, those are kind of the big three, you
They
know, you
are.
think about it. And Idiomatic, even though she was defeated last time at Saratoga, she ran a huge race, sustaining that pace and then just being nabbed late by Raging Sea, who was able to get the setup that day. But Idiomatic is a very, very good horse. And as Andy pointed out, you have the talent of Adair Manor as well. And look, no matter what happens, if those three line up in the Distaff, it's going to be an exceptional race.
I agree, and Raging Sea is going to need every bit of what she got last time. It's a tribute to Chad and the way the race was run that she's now a Grade 1 winner. She's a very nice horse, but she has not really shown herself to be a Grade 1 winner horse before that.
This second race here on our Sunday card, 1-turn mile again, this allowance optional claiming field. And 7-5 favorites, Sedona, Shug McGahee, Flavian Pratt, as we get set for the pick 4 to begin. Let's go back downstairs to Maggie.
Yeah, we see Sedona in here, and she's the one that, at least on paper, looks to capitalize on what might be a quicker pace, turning back to this 1-turn mile as well, because you have the presence of Smokin' Hot Kitty, Fade to Gray, and even the horse on the outside, who I'll get to in a moment, for trainer Linda Rice, all want to be at least forward in here. And Sedona, yeah, she was involved in that very messy race where we had a DQ and a horse listed as a non-starter after the break just went to pieces. She was a little bit of the instigator, though. She went in, she was restless in there, and I think set off the other horses and, you know, messed up the communication with the assistant starters. But then she was hustled forward around the turn. Then she dropped all the way back to last down the backside, continued that way, looked like she was going to get none of it, and then found some other gear midway down the stretch to get up for third. So, yes, I think that with a little more pace, she might be able to launch that one turn that she wants to make from behind. She looks great here. She's third off of that little bit of a layoff we saw, and I think she is the horse to beat. Now, I do want to touch on the Linda Rice runner in here, who should be a big price on that they're not an entry anymore, but Spring Magic, just for the fact that I don't know how good she is, if she's good enough to take down the more logical types in here, but she looks really good here off the bench for Linda. She's gotten a little bit warm, but again, it's kind of unseasonably warm. She's put on a lot of weight and conditioning. Her coat looks fantastic here, better than what I saw from her back on July 11th. She's stronger too. So a horse that, you know, sometimes when Linda does show this aggressiveness when entering horses off the bench, they do tend to outrun their odds at times. Greg?
Maggie, thanks. We'll get to the post parade coming up in a bit. 7-1 on this remaining half of the entry coming up. Sedona remains the one to beat, and still 5-2 on Fade to Gray, who Andy is against, and does seem like certainly not going to get to do it the way she did last time.
Yeah, I mean, listen, maybe she's a better horse than she showed in winning last time, but she's going to have to show it to me. Listen, I pick Sedona. I'm not proud of that pick. But I look at the race as sort of a battle, whether you want, who do you want from the speeds, who do you want from the closers? So the speeds, you take Smokin' Kitty or you take Fade to Gray. I don't like Fade to Gray, so I prefer Smokin' Kitty. Smokin' Kitty has been very good, and I'm not going to knock her. Now, she probably does have to contend with Fade to Gray at some point, and maybe to a lesser extent Spring Magic. Whereas Sedona has to outclose I'm Buzzy. And I'm not trying to take I'm Buzzy lightly because she is a price horse with a chance in here, but I just think she's a better horse. And in general, deep closers like Sedona are often better in these elongated sprints, these 1-mile races, because the paces naturally are faster.
Post parade coming up. We'll start with that remaining half of the entry, who will break second to the outside. Just music.
First off the claim.
Sorry, Spring Magic.
First time off the claim for Linda Rice can always be dangerous, but she claimed from a very good trainer in Bill Morey.
And that's far outside post, excuse me, with Jose Lizcano. Here's the rail, Smokin' Hot Kitty, Kendra Carmouche.
She was a little bit awkward at the break last time, so she got outfooted at the start. She has been able to control paces pretty comfortably up in Saratoga and is in very good form right now.
Sedona, Flavian Pratt for Shug McGahee.
She's going to have to do a lot more running to live up to her $2 million purchase price, and she's bred to be a bit of a plotter, but she's not untalented.
Any positives for Amity Island?
Well, she is getting back to the dirt, so we'll see. She's going to be running late, that's for sure.
Here's on Buzzy.
Too late.
Manny Franco.
She's the other closer along with Sedona, and she's a better price if you like her, and she has been a bit against the racetrack. I just don't know if she's really necessarily good enough, but she's not impossible.
And here's Fade to Gray. Moved to dirt last start. She's undefeated on the surface.
She is, and look, I liked her last time, but she was able to control things on the front end. She's a big, leggy horse, and she was, as mentioned, beating one that just doesn't necessarily have that winning punch. She has to step up and face winners for the first time and doesn't necessarily meet the easiest group to do so.
Follow along, get all the stats of the horses, trainers, jockeys in today's races with free Equibase past performances. You can download yours at NYRA.com/TV schedule. So 4 minutes away here, race 2 to start our pick 4, and there is a look at Fade to Gray, dirt debut last start, 1 1/8, led every step of the way. Let's show it to you here at Saratoga.
She did. She was hustled right out to the front, and it ended up being a compact field. There were a couple of scratches in here. She got very comfortable in the front end, and you also pointed out how the track was playing Andy, and I think her speed is definitely her best weapon. Now, what will she do? She showed much improved speed, switching surfaces, and she was also quite sharp this day. But what will she do as she faces winners for the first time? Often is a big jump, and she's got some older, more accomplished horses in here to deal with.
I don't like horses like that. I'm probably over-exaggerating saying I'd be shocked if she wins, because obviously she could win. She's lightly raced. But I believe she's just the kind of horse that's completely dressed up coming in here. How does she win this race? She wins when Smokin' Hot Kitty isn't particularly aggressive out of the gate and isn't able to be as competitive as she's been in her recent starts. And then she's able to set a somewhat tepid pace, and horses like Sedona and I'm Buzzy just aren't able to be effective closing behind her. That's the way she wins this race. Those are closer types, maybe they're a bit against it. But if Smokin' Hot Kitty is effective and is aggressive, she's going to set it up so a horse like Sedona, or to a lesser extent, even I'm Buzzy, can close into this pace, and I think that's more likely to happen.
This is Sedona, 2 starts back, July 4th. Missing to Ichiban by a head.
And she ran very well this day, and then an odd trip, as Maggie touched on last time out, with that kind of wild race where there was one non-starter and one DQ for a horse that rushed the gate. But it was encouraging to see that she kind of came back and grinding. And as you said, with the pedigree, she's a full sister to first captain Andy, who does kind of very much have that grinding running style. But I don't know. I think Sedona has some ability. She did win at 7 furlongs at first asking as well. So there has to be a little bit of zip in there somewhere if they can get her into the race a bit more.
She won at 7 furlongs when they went 22-3 and 45-2.5. No, what I'm saying is that's part of the argument that you kind of prefer her in these one-turn races. Now, I don't think they're going to go 22-3, 45-2 in this race or whatever, but I do think we'll see a better, you're just going to see super slow paces in those long-distance races, and I don't know that necessarily is conducive to her. They pay an awful lot of money for these sons and daughters of America, who herself was a bit of a plotter, and she's given that quality on to her offspring.
One of the more expensive purchases, colt or filly, period. We've seen in a long time, $2 million. And she did win first time out, and we'll see if she can collect that second win coming up. Let's go downstairs to Maggie.
Yeah, let's check in with the horse on the rail. That's Smokin' Hot Kitty, who Kendrick Ramouche and Horacio De Paz doing a great job with, figuring out that she's that rare kitten's joy that prefers the main track. She also is one that, historically speaking, has worn a lot of different and quite severe equipment at times. She wears an extension blinker over that right outside eye. And while, sometimes you would express concern about that with some of these horses, she's worn it for so long and she's broken from the inside with it. So like I said, if it was like a first or second time, because when they break from the inside, they can't see the other horses or those doors opening quite as well. But she got a lovely warm-up here by Kendrick Carmouche, and she was fairly sharp in the paddock too, so giving me every indication that they are going to go forward from that inside post position. Now, the other speed horse is number 6, Fade to Gray, who is coming off the back of that easy loping victory, going the mile and an eighth up at Saratoga on the front end. I think she might be more of a horse that is actually a two-turn runner. She's enormous. She's every bit of 17 hands. And two, in the paddock, she was quite laid back. She was given an aggressive warm-up by John Velasquez here, and she's gotten more on her toes now approaching the gate. But like I said, that physical presence that she has lends itself better, I think, personally, to the two-turn distances. Guys?
Thank you, Maggie. Behind the gate. And 7-5 favoritism. Sedona, the expensive filly for Shug McGahee, Woodford Racing, West Point Thoroughbreds. Except for this pick 4.
Generally, horses with front end speed that have the stamina are better in two-turn races because they get breathers more than they'll get, and especially the elongated sprints. And they don't run them at that many tracks. We'll have them at Belmont. We have them here, where they get running down that straightaway, and the second quarter is almost always faster than the first quarter. They can get heated up in those races.
I think the 1A Spring Magic is a little bit intriguing as to how this race is going to play as
Fair.
well. You know Smokin' Hot Kitty has the speed. You know that Fade to Gray is one that has speed. I think a lot of it depends, too, and she's drawn outside.
No, that's a great point. I agree. She's the one that could provide a little extra pressure in here, in theory.
There is the $2 million filly, daughter of Curlin, the favorite, 7-5. Flavian Pratt loading up for Shug McGahee, the one to beat here in this second race to start this early pick 4. Let's go to Chris Griffin for the call.
I'm Buzzy. Fade to Gray. Spring Magic. Goes in. All set. And they're off. Breaking a touch out where there was Smokin' Hot Kitty, and Sedona got shuffled back to last. Smokin' Hot Kitty does break quickest, though, and Smokin' Hot Kitty is now a half length in front. Here's Spring Magic towards the outside to join this early leader, and Fade to Gray is just off of them from third. 4 lengths in front of I'm Buzzy. There's a lot of distance here between front to back. Second to last is going to be Amity Island, is sharing that spot with Sedona. Very strong outfield as they went 22-4 for that opening quarter mile. Smokin' Hot Kitty and Spring Magic, they go at it. Fade to Gray has moved towards the center of the racetrack here, is stalking the 2 pace setters, is well clear of the rail. Is just watching the action here from third, is still 4-5 lengths in front of I'm Buzzy, who is alone in fourth, and still far back Sedona with Amity Island. Get set to reach a half mile left to go, 46.31, the half mile time, and the leader is Smokin' Hot Kitty. Smokin' Hot Kitty is still there, but here comes the run from Fade to Gray, starts to move in a touch closer. I'm Buzzy is starting to move as well. Losing ground quickly there was Spring Magic, and from the back, Sedona is trying to rally on. Far, far back still Amity Island as they approach a quarter mile left to go. Fade to Gray gave Smokin' Hot Kitty a shot, but Smokin' Hot Kitty is still doing it easily. And here's Smokin' Hot Kitty, who reaches the top of the stretch and now sprints clear once again, is back up by 3. I'm Buzzy is in full pursuit just past Fade to Gray. Sedona is making up some ground with a furlong left to go. Smokin' Hot Kitty still showing no signs of stopping here. A 16th left to go. Smokin' Hot Kitty. I'm Buzzy continues to chase. Sedona's up into third. Smokin' Hot Kitty gets the victory. Holding on for second was I'm Buzzy, then Sedona, and Fade to Gray in 1 minute 38.45 seconds.
Well, the 2 mares who had a huge advantage in terms of getting their picture taken a lot more than anyone in this field run 1-2. Smokin' Hot Kitty. Kendrick Carmouche did not get an easy lead. Just Spring Magic, as you pointed out, Acacia, harassed this one early, but Smokin' Hot Kitty pulls away late.
Oh, you have to give it to Jose Lozcano with Spring Magic. He was aggressive, and it just didn't pan out, but Smokin' Hot Kitty is just in such good form right now, and especially when she's able to get the lead, Andy. But this is kind of one of those things we were talking about when you face older horses, especially when you're lightly raced. you're facing Smokin' Hot Kitty, who's a 5-year-old, 6, now 7-time winner. She just has so much foundation, and it's just going so well right now.
It's a funny race, right? 22.89, 46.31. Those are very fast fractions. Obviously, they came home slowly, but she did all the work up front. A very nice win for Horacio De Paz. If you haven't noticed how good he is as a trainer, you're just not paying attention. And the job he's done with her, especially these one-turn mile races, is nothing short of impressive. I wonder how much she came out, or if Sedona did that self at the start. But Sedona, you know, right away she's like 5 lengths behind the other closer in the race, which puts her at such a disadvantage. You wonder if she could have done. The two did come out pretty severely.
She came out, but I think Sedona broke a bit slow already.
Yeah.
She kind of invited it. And just as Maggie touched on, Smokin' Hot Kitty does wear that extension blinker where her right eye is fully covered, because she can drift a little bit sometimes. But I don't think that she really caused the slow start for Sedona.
That's fair. But Sedona, that's Sedona's problem. She just is too slow early. And it's not even one thing to be sluggish. It's another thing to take yourself out of the start as well.
2-5-3-6. Smokin' Hot Kitty wins it 5-2. 7th win of her career, and she loves it here on this surface. 4th win, 7 tries. Kendrick Carmouche for De Paz and Liberty House Racing. 5-year-old mare by Kitten's Joy. Pulls away here in the stretch, and 8-1 shot on Buzzy winds up 2nd. Sedona was so far back early, as these two talked about. Picks up 3rd as a 7-5 favorite. Prices, we'll move on to race 3 when we come back.
$1 million, did I hear? $1 million. $1 million on a pay, $1,400,000 on a pie. $1,500,000 and $1,600,000, $1,600,000, $150,000, $1,500,000 and a half. $1,500,000. Jody, thank you.
Please hold your applause.
Charlatan, ultra impressive.
It's a new day for a new king.
Back with you on America's Day at the Races on our Fox Sports 2 coverage. 2 races in the books, and Kendrick Carmouche, Louisiana in the house. Getting the win on Smokin' Hot Kitty. 7th career win for this 5-year-old mare. Let's go downstairs to Maggie.
Pleased to be joined here by Kendrick Carmouche, and him and Smokin' Hot Kitty have a really good rapport. Kendrick, sometimes I find that while you went fast, it was her finding her rhythm today, and she just looks so comfortable the whole way around there.
Yeah, you know, she left there real good. She was more relaxed today. We got her back in an allowance race where she could have been back on Lasix, and she was back to herself again, nice and calm in the post parade. And today she left there running, and 2 horses wanted to go outside, but man, I just let her roll, and she just totally found her stride, probably about 4.5 down the backside. And after that, I just had to just sit on her and just wait on them to come. And she's so smooth. I can't believe a Kitten's Joy run that good on the dirt. You know, it amazes me.
She really doesn't have that high climbing knee action at all.
Not at all. And I rode on the grass, and she went on the grass before, but I rode her once, and I was like, man, she feels so much better on the dirt. And Horacio said she even looked better, so let's leave it there. And, you know, we're here today.
You mentioned the Lasix, and I've seen it sometimes where if a horse comes off of it, they get very, very nervous because oftentimes it'll calm a horse down.
Right. I mean, last time, if you go back and watch the post parade on this filly, I mean, she was all over. I mean, just upset, wanting to run over the pony, and I'm like, man, this filly never does this. Right. Then I start thinking about it. She was off Lasix. And Horacio said, man, she never was that bad. Now we had to back her out, put her back in. And today, she warmed up. She put her head down. She was relaxed. You know, it works. You know, it's how you use it for horses, and you know, use it the right way, and it can be successful in our sport.
Well said. Congratulations. It's fun to watch you and her out there.
Thank you, Louisiana, baby.
Knew it was coming, Greg.
Now's our show's complete. That we got Louisiana in the house. Kendrick, always love to see him get his picture taken, and Smoking Hot Kitty. She's done this quite a bit.
She has. She's been in great form, and you know I like this mare. Andy and I were discussing. You know, do you have a little bit of an affinity for her because she has really relaxed and she's gotten better. She's gotten older too. And I remember Kendrick kind of talking about that with me in Saratoga about getting her to relax. And they fooled around with equipment, trying out different types of bits on her, and it seems like Horacio's just really got her right.
Yeah, I mean, it turns out that what she needs to do is go long in the dirt. Because going on in the dirt, she can use her speed to control these races and be in a good position, and she has the stamina to keep going. And even though this race slowed down, they didn't slow down enough for the closers to get in the race, and they both, you know, obviously, Sedona, it's her own fault she's so far back, and the other horse certainly had her chance. Smoking Hot Kitty's a nice horse. She's made over $200,000.
It looked a little dicey, too, early with Spring Magic going at her.
For sure. They were moving. Yeah. And, I mean, she's won $220,000 since winning her non-winners of 3 condition in a 25 claimer. So Horacio's done a lot of good things with her, and he's done a lot of good things with a lot of horses that he trains.
Yeah.
More stakes action ahead. Boys get their turn. Bertram F. Bongard for New York Breds. It's our Spendthrift Farm 2-year-old race of the day. Spendthrift, home of North America's 5-time reigning champion, General Sire, into mischief. And it's Manhattan Twist, won first time out for Todd Pletcher at that Saratoga meet, who opens up the 4-5 favorite.
And this is also a horse owned in part by My Racehorse, so you're often going to get a chance to see those horses just be very short prices, and did get a pretty good figure first time out.
And Sacrosanct is heavily favored in doubles over Manhattan Twist, so by post times likely to be favored, as you're pointing out. The early money always comes in on the My Racehorse horses.
All right, so 7 furlongs for the boys coming up in this Bertram F. Bongard. We'll get to the post parade coming up in just a moment. Lane Luzzy grew up in the jocks room, paddock, and the winner's circle, where his dad Mike won close to 4,500 races during his career as a rider, always knowing he wanted to follow in Dad's footsteps. Now that his father is helping shape his career as his agent, it's given Lane extra motivation to try and achieve some of the things his dad always dreamed of.
For jockey Lane Luzzy, it wasn't a matter of if, but when he would fulfill his dream of riding races.
Being a jockey is the only thing I've ever wanted to do. I mean, I was good in school, I played sports, like any normal kid, but there was no plan B for me. I just wanted to be a jockey, grow up watching my dad here at Aqueduct, Belmont, and you know, it was just always a treat to come out to the races. I love horses in general, and I have the physique for it, so this is what I was born to do.
Even his father, former rider and now his agent, Mike Luzzy, knew it was just a matter of time.
If he wasn't in school, he was in the jocks room. So he kind of grew up in a jockey's room and was always around it and always wanted to be here. He learned to ride on the Equicizer before he ever rode a real horse. but he did start getting on horses right at Belmont Park. He went to Floral Park Memorial across the street, and when he started working, he would work in the morning first and then go to high school.
As Lane's career expanded, the two worlds collided in Texas before one special afternoon in Queens.
I went to Texas for 10 days and rode with him for the 10 days, and that was an experience. We actually rode one race here.
There was somebody else named on the horse that I ended up riding, but for whatever reason, they needed a jockey, and they loaded us in the gate at the same time, and we just kind of looked over, and you know, you couldn't really believe it, but at the same time, you're focused on doing your job, and we just both had a passion for race riding and horse racing in general. It was really cool.
When it came time for Mike to call it a career, he never expected to become a full-time agent, especially for his son.
I'll start by saying I never thought I'd be an agent or wanted to be an agent. You know, it was kind of a surprise to me. I was in Saratoga and getting on horses, and when the horses left in November, matter of fact, I was the last one on the track exercising a horse. I went a few weeks like kind of bummed out that the horses were gone. And that's when Lane came up with the idea to be his agent.
I needed something to get me started, and he was wrapping up his career and needed something to do. And it was always something we joked about, how we would never do what we're doing now, working together, father and son. And it's just kind of how the cards were played. We both love this profession. We both love horse racing. It was almost meant to be.
The name Luzzy has become a staple in New York racing over the last 30 years. And it doesn't look like that will change anytime soon.
I'm home, I'm here. I grew up a few miles from here, and I've done a little traveling in my time, but I'm home now. I'm excited to be here and enjoying the ride.
And this is the one that Lane Luzzy will be riding. Butta, the brother to Lobsta and Chowda, who won second time out at Saratoga. And Lane started to make a little bit of noise late in that Saratoga meet.
3 wins closing week. Certainly, you know, you have a rough meet going to it. He had a particularly rough meet because not only wasn't he winning, but he survived what could have been a really rough situation and was riding.
Got kicked
what,
in
about
the face in the
45
paddock,
minutes later, half hour later, he came back.
He came right
paddock.
back in the next race. It was unbelievable.
Impressive.
You have to give him credit for that.
Yep.
And
for a lot.
Absolutely, and won nicely on Butta at the end of the meet there too. And you love seeing that pedigree.
Wait.
Chowda, Lobsta horses, we were all big fans
This horse is 5-1. This horse's race was 4/5 of a second slower in the other division. You're going to have to really like the Michelle Giddings horse in today's 7th race if you like this horse here.
We'll be back 12 minutes away. Bertram F. Bongard for the boys. Stakes action going 7/8 of a mile. When we return, stay with us.
It's amazing. I mean, we're used to having horses in claiming races, and here we're at the undercard of the Belmont.
And they're off in the Woody Stevens, and here's Bookham Dano, who has blown by them all. Bookham Dano, Prince of Monaco in between. It's going to get very close. Bookham Dano!
Winning on New York's most important day of racing.
I can't. That was awesome. He's the best.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.
Why do the most successful owners, breeders, and horsemen select the Green Group as their tax advisor? We simply save them money. Over the past 40 years, founder Leonard Green has owned and bred some of the best racehorses in the history of the sport. His hands-on industry knowledge, combined with cutting-edge tax-saving strategies, has produced positive results for his clientele and has made the Green Group the top-rated accounting and tax firm in the business. For a confidential and complimentary consultation, contact us at 732-634-5100 or visit our website at www.greenco.com. The Green Group, proven strategies to save you taxes.
Racetrack Television Network brings you every race, from every track, on every screen, every day. With monthly packages starting as low as $5, RTN gives you great value and access to more live HD streaming and race replays than anyone. Visit RTN.tv today to sign up and watch on almost any device, including Roku and Amazon Fire. RTN has packages that start at $5 per month.
Funny Side off the turn with a 2.5 length lead. Funny Side opening up on the field under a hand ride is in front now by 5. Spike the Devil, Storm Cadet, Infinite Justice, all giving chase. Farther back, Look Out Evan is a distant 5th. But it's all Funny Side, and Jose Santos aboard another winner, and Funny Side won.
Funny Side, well, the future was very bright when he won the Bertram F. Bongard at the turn of this century. Wow, it's hard to believe it's been that long ago since the great New York-bred gelding would then go on to win the Kentucky Derby for Barclay Tagg and Saratoga Stable, and what a ride. That horse took them all on. I remember Barclay Tagg buying Funny Side just after watching him gallop when he was being prepared to come to the racetrack. So a race that is steeped in our New York-bred history, as we have this year's edition saddled and ready to go in the paddock, as we see a prohibitive favorite in number 4, at least at the moment, a Manhattan Twist. I think that has to do with connections with my racehorse betting on their horses quite often, but he's one of 2 kind of logical horses in here, right? Between him and the one Sacrosanct. And for me, looking at him physically, I'm going to take Sacrosanct every time over Manhattan Twist. And talking with Acacia and sharing notes with these young horses, very beneficial. As she said, a small, petite horse, and he is, Manhattan Twist, and that he was green first time out. He's far more professional, but still, physically, he doesn't quite stack up the same as the other logical horse on paper in number 1. And he looks quick, as he showed to be in his debut, really well-developed hindquarters. Just wish there was a bit more of him, wish there was a bit more physical maturity. Now we'll check in with some horses that are bigger prices. As Andy said, Butta taking a lot of money here. Butta has really transformed. I remember looking at him first time out and thinking, that's Chowda and Lobster's brother? Because he was very small, very backwards looking. He's developed tenfold since that debut back on July 25th. He's so much more athletic, has put on so much muscle mass. He looks like a different horse, where I do think there's another forward move in him. I just don't know how big of one there is to take down this field. As well as check in with a maiden. That's number 2, Oath of Omerta, beaten by Butta that day, but a horse that kind of big, raw looking, but very impressive looking too. Green. Today, very professional in the Aqueduct paddock, and also looks way more fit, and he's the horse that, at least looking at these guys, looks the most convincing, Greg, at the 7 furlongs.
All right, Maggie, thank you. We'll get to our post parade here in just a moment. In fact, right now, as we kick things off with Sacrosanct, Manny Franco.
I agree with Maggie that of the 2 horses, and this horse will be favored by post time despite the odds now in all likelihood, I prefer this one. Thought it was just a better race.
Oath of Omerta, big price, Dylan Davis.
Still a maiden, finished 3rd to Butta on debut. Was up close chasing, kind of grinding 3rd place finish.
Shug McGahee and Pay the Juice won a race off the turf last start.
No respect to the windows for a horse that won an off the turf race. Maggie was like this horse more than I did.
6-5 favorite, the Todd Pletcher runner, Manhattan Twist.
And this horse was able to wire the field first time out. I don't know how strong a field it is that he comes out of, and can he do it again now going to 7?
Smile and Say Cheese, Mike Maker. Rad Ortiz Jr.
I'm giving this one another chance. He's got to start to act a little bit better, but considering what went wrong last time, I still don't think he ran that badly, and his debut was fast.
There's the one Maggie says is physically developed quite a bit since that last start, Butta.
And a pedigree that we know very well, New York Stakes winners Chowda and Lobster in the family. And this is a horse that took a big step forward at second asking.
And McDiesel, the biggest price on the board outside.
Frankly, I'm not sure McDiesel isn't more likely to win this race than Butta in his 30-1. I don't like either one of them, but at least he's a big price.
Ruben Silvera for Rudy Rodriguez there. 6-5. Manhattan Twist, the 4-horse. And there is the gray, son of Liam's map. Those ARTs will be aboard. Let's go back to that debut at Saratoga.
And yes, he did win first time out, able to control things on the front end, hustled right out to the lead. And as Maggie touched on in the paddock, kind of a smaller petite type. And he's one that was a bit green in the preliminaries, kind of hollering a little bit. You see kind of reacting to the crop in the stretch, but he was always clear in there. And he was able to control, got a good figure for that effort, Andy. My big question is, too, as he comes forward now to face some tougher competition, can he do it again? Is he going to be able to get that trip? And just how good of a race is it that he's coming out of?
Well, that's my concern. 2 horses have run back out of that race. The 4th place finisher came back and ran 16 buyer points worse. And the 6th place finisher came back and ran 9 buyer points worse. I'm not a fan of Manhattan Twist. He's certainly not impossible. But if you like him, he's likely to be second choice by post time and drift up from his 6-5 odds.
1 to beat on the board after winning that debut for Todd Pletcher. Pick 4 pool, you see just over $27,000 here as we get set for the Bertram F. Bongard. 7/8 of a mile for the boys here. We have a new audience joining us right now. Welcome to those just tuning in on Valley Sports SoCal. Those already with us on our Fox Sports 2 coverage. You're watching America's Day at the Races as we get set for early stakes action. We saw the fillies, 2-year-old fillies, kick off the card. And it's the boys' turn now. The Bertram F. Bongard, Greg Wolf, Acacia Clement, Andy Serling, and current favorite in here, Manhattan Twist for Todd Pletcher.
And a horse that did win first time out at Saratoga. And our question is, how good of a race is it that he does come out of? And can he do it again as they're going to 7 furlongs in here? I think that he meets a talented horse in Sacrosanct Fort Brad Cox and a couple other intriguing horses as well. There's a lot of development that can still be had at this stage for the 2-year-olds.
Yeah, and the horses we'd pointed out before that came out of the race, 2 runners came back out of Manhattan Twist race and did not run well, to say the least, in their subsequent starts. A horse that's favored now, but that's a my racehorse horse taking money. And by post time, perhaps Brad Cox's horse in the rail, Sacrosanct, will end up being the favorite. I'm going to try to beat them both with Smile and Say Cheese, a rare opportunity to get at least a square price on Irad Ortiz.
And I will say just quickly about Smile and Say Cheese, he was very naughty in the paddock before his last race, just really acting up, doing a lot of things wrong, so hopefully he can be more professional today.
Meanwhile, the coach, Phil Parcells, his August on farm, has Pay the Juice coming off a maiden win. That's the 3 at 5 to 1. Let's go to Maggie for more.
And Greg, for those just joining us, the female version of these 2-year-old New York bred stakes earlier on in the card, the Joseph A. Gemma, it did appear to be more of a 1-horse race, where this one I think is fairly wide open. And number 3, Pay the Juice, who you were alluding to, Greg, I think is a horse with some upside. He was well backed in both of his efforts, I should say more prohibitively last time in an off the turf event, and he's going to have to get better than that last race. And I don't know if he is. I'll say this, though, at least from my perspective, a horse that still didn't look fit, yet still won. And today, he is way more tucked up than what he was in both of his starts at Saratoga, and I think extra ground is going to help him. I loved the warm-up. I was a little bit questioning myself, Maggie, why are you picking this horse? But then when I watched him warm up, I felt more confident in taking Pay the Juice here. For Shug McGahee, who we often see just develop these horses with time and experience. Moving on to number 5, Smile and Say Cheese. Yes, he was a little green in his debut, yet he won. And then, as Acacia said, acting up very badly in his second start and bolting around the turn. Now, he does wear a Halton bit or a cage bit, which is good for those horses that want to do that. He did lug out a little bit in that debut race, too. He has been a lot more relaxed here. That's just the nature of Aqueduct versus Saratoga and the energy, and it's just a lot more quiet here. But warming up okay. As I said, a lot more calm and professional, but I just thought there were some others in here that just looked better moving over the track, guys.
Maggie, thanks. 6-5 favoritism. Meanwhile, going to Sacrosanct on the rail for Brad Cox.
Yeah, well, that was not surprising looking at the double prices as the money came in, and the early money for my racehorse sort of drifted away on Manhattan Twist. I want to talk about Pay the Juice a little bit. Pay the Juice was effective first time out on the turf. In fact, hit the wire with a horse named Leon Blue, who's stretching out in later today's card, and I would think would be favored, a horse named for the late Leon Blushewitz. Shug McGay, the horse got rained off. He stayed in. He was a heavy favorite, and the horse delivered. I imagine that this is sort of a test for Shug McGay to see if he's good enough to run at the upper levels in these 2-year-old New York bred races, because the purses are good. You go to a race like the Sleepy Hollow for a couple $100,000, I think, 200, 250 at a mile. But if it doesn't work out in here, we're likely to see him on the turf going forward.
And I'm glad to hear that he got some positive notes from Maggie in the way that he has progressed, because he did need to, and just I was a little bit reticent to give him a shot in here because to my eye, he moves so much more like a turf horse. But if he's able to handle both surfaces, it certainly does open up a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I think there's no reason not to do that. He's not going to get an allowance race in the turf. He could head to the Pilgrim. He's probably not good enough. And I also want to see the final time of this race, because keep in mind the filly in the first race went 124.04 and won impressively. I won't be surprised when this race is at least a second slower. We'll see.
We'll compare them when they cross the wire. Boys going in this Bertram F. Bongard with 6-5 favorite Sacrosanct, and there he is loading up for trainer Brad Cox in those Lady Sheila Stable Silks with Manny Franco as the one to beat. Let's send it upstairs. Chris Griffin, the call.
Oath of Murder has gone in. Pay the Juice. Pay the Juice. Flavien Prat aboard. Stepping forward, goes in. Manhattan Twist. The gray there. Smile and Say Cheese, and then we'll have 2 out. Butter, Lane Leslie, and McDiesel. Long shot towards the outside. McDiesel and Ruben Silvera. About to go in. And in. All set for the Bertram F. Bongard. And they're off. Butter breaks very well towards the far outside, and also McDiesel in that early mix and at the rail at Sacrosanct, who wants to hold that position. Now 3 across the racetrack. Just off of them, Manhattan Twist is to the outside here of Oath of Murder. They're now 4th and 5th, and in behind them comes Pay the Juice. The early trailer, Smile and Say Cheese, out in the center of the racetrack, is about 6 lengths, the trailer. A 3-way battle for the front, and they went 22 and 4 for the opening quarter mile. Sacrosanct has got the lead, has wrestled it away as 3/4 of length in front of Butter, who's in between horses towards the outside. McDiesel, they apply the pressure with 4 furlongs left to go. On the move now is Pay the Juice. Flavien Prat is more in the clear, looks more comfortable now, is taken 4th and is moving quickly towards the outside of McDiesel now to secure 3rd. Also running on is Manhattan Twist. At the rail, Oath of Murder trying to pick it up from the back is Smile and Say Cheese, but is tailed off to be about 10. 11 lengths the trailer. Sacrosanct went 46 and 3 for that half-mile time and still in hand and does it easily. Sacrosanct at the top of the stretch. All in is Butter trying to catch this leader. Also now running on is Pay the Juice, but they have a lot of ground to make up as Sacrosanct is opening up with every stride. A furlong left to go and tight on the rail. Sacrosanct and Manny Franco just opening up this margin. Now they have a 16th left to go. Geared down, and Sacrosanct will be much the best and wins the Bongard in hand. Butter will have 2nd, then came Pay the Juice and Smile and Say Cheese in 1 minute 24.35 seconds.
Sacrosanct by as many as he wanted under Manny Franco here for Brad Cox.
And this was a horse that had really just impressed me first time out and really impressed me today, too. Also, Andy, we see him pulling away, and he did that a little bit first time, too, where when he switched leads, he kind of leans into the rail a bit, but he was clear, pulling away from his competition in here. You're going to see the 2nd place finisher, Skytown, a little bit later in one of those maiden special weight races, so certainly flatters this one with the performance from Sacrosanct here.
Ran 0.31 seconds slower than the filly, but that's impressive and won by seemingly about a dozen lengths. getting it done. Actually, Butter ran fine in here to be second, as nobody else did really much running. I'm starting to wonder after the first 3 races if inside speed might be a bit of an advantage. I'm holding back because they've been somewhat logical results, but they've also been a bit exaggerated, and I'm wondering if maybe the track is helping these horses a little bit. There's no indication based on earlier races this week, but I wonder a little. We'll see going forward. It's probably only 1 or 2 turf races, dirt races all day, right?
Completely wrapped up mid-stretch to the end, and it was in hand. 1-6-3-5 finish, and Sacrosanct, very impressive here, second time out.
Nice performance from a good New York bred, and certainly one that you have to be impressed by here, winning so easily with his ears up, coming back like that. I like to see them win like that so comfortably.
I agree. Manhattan Twist, a complete and total no-show.
But a second Pay the Juice completes the trifecta. We'll have the prices when we come back, but no doubt about a winner in the Bertram F. Bondguard. It's Sacrosanct, Brad Cox, Lady Sheila Stable with Manny Franco.
Wet Pink surging to win the Coaching Club American Oaks.
Forte to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. $400,000.
Eclipse champion Blame, standing at Claiborne Farm.
Back with you on our Sunday coverage here on Fox Sports 2, regional networks out in Southern California. It's brought to you in part by legendary Claiborne Farm. 100 years of doing the usual unusually well. Bertram F. Bondguard in the books, and as easy as could be for Sacrosanct, who is now 2 for 2.
Yeah, impressive, almost as fast as the impressive filly in the first. Couple of nice-looking New York breds.
And just want to say, too, this was actually the first winner for his stallion, Honest Mischief. And he'd been a stallion that had been really popular at the sales and just to take him a little bit of time to get going. But I remember talking to even Chad Brown and Brad Cox, it just had seen too many good-looking ones to think that they didn't have ability. And this is a perfect
Well,
example.
Chad trained Honest Mischief, so
No,
they all look good to him. I'm just kidding.
Impressive win in our Spendthrift Farm 2-year-old race of the day. Let's go down to Maggie.
Yeah, well, we were just reminiscing just a bit here. Please be joined by Sheila Rosenblum. And Sheila, as you just said, and I didn't realize this, but you're also partners on With the Angels, who won the Joseph A. Gemma. And you said that she kind of reminds you of the horse who got it all started.
Smaller, love or died, yes. With the heart, with the talent, with the speed. This was incredible. Wait, I can't believe it. 2 stake races. And I came in from out of town and said, I'm going to be there. And someone said, but you win when you're not there. And I said, wait a minute, I want to win when I am there.
And you knocked it out of the park today. So did your horses. They both won by open length.
Incredible. I mean, major wins and just kept it going. And we had the first post position 1, which is never our favorite.
Right.
But they didn't know that.
No. And I overheard Manny Franco just telling you about Sacrosanct, that he acted today like a horse that had done it a dozen times before.
I am so proud of them, both 2-year-olds. So we give them time usually, but they seem to want to be racing. So it is incredibly exciting, and anyone who doesn't realize winning is a hell of a fun way to do it. I've been at the tail end.
Well, that's what you said. You also said to me, this can also be the most humbling game in the world.
Oh, yeah. And anything that can happen, happens. And we appreciate the good moments. And these are talented horses.
They are.
So I'm very flattered and humbled to be in these races. And it's great to have racers again. Wow. I don't only want to breed.
Yes.
I actually want to go to a race once in a while.
We're glad you showed up for this one. Both of these here.
Yes, it was wonderful.
Congratulations. Enjoy it. It's a beautiful day as well.
Wow, this was incredible. Thank you, Maggie. You look gorgeous.
Well, thank you. I feel like
Christiana, this is a bag you gave me.
So fashion always on point here with Sheila Rosenblum, but the horses really showed up today for her. Guys.
And those silks, they've had some good runners. The very good La Verdad, not that long ago. They might have a really good one here, too.
Absolutely. And as you heard from Sheila, a big afternoon, co-owner with the Angels as well, getting the victory with Sacrosanct here in those silks. And a big supporter of the New York bred program as well. And so seeing New York bred 2-year-olds with a big future, both of them now 2 for 2 as well. So a good day at the racetrack for the team.
And we already heard the filly likely going to tackle Open Company next time out. Off this performance, that margin all the way back to second, Sacrosanct maybe going to take that shot at some point too?
Maybe so. I mean, there are some great opportunities for the New York breds as well to stay against New York bred company here with the 2-year-old program that we do have for those New York breds. But you do have an opportunity later. I mean, look, at this stage of the game, if you have a very good 2-year-old, you're not going to get to the Breeders' Cup at this stage. So you can take your time a little bit more of when you decide to face Open Company, because there will be some opportunities.
Race 4. 1-turn mile coming up next. New York breds in a $30,000 maiden claiming event. Starts the pick 6. And Big Ego Linda Rice, Arad Ortiz Jr. back in for a claiming tag.
He is, and this is the horse that Linda claimed to start back for $40,000, and he finished second that day. And then, as a horse that took a lot of attention last time out, was incredibly disappointing in that effort. So it just makes sense to see him dropping down in class. But I think you also have to question it a little bit. Is this a horse that you're willing to trust at a potentially short price?
All right, we're gonna take a timeout and say goodbye to Andy. Oh, he already left.
He left us.
All right, so quick break. We'll be back. We'll talk next. One of my favorites. Dominant again on that big day at Parks in that Greenwood Cup. He has been sensational. Former claim for Doug Cowan. Stay with us.
Drain the Clock will win and win by as much as he wants. He'll win by 6 in the end.
It is Drain the Clock who will bound home the winner in the Bayshore. Drain the Clock, Jackie's Warrior, a terrific finish in the Woody Stevens that goes to Drain the Clock by a head.
You have to be here to feel the rumble from 40,000 race fans. Mixed with the Pacific breeze, you have to be here to taste extravagance and witness greatness race after race after race. You have to be here to witness unforgettable and to believe the unbelievable. This November, be at Del Mar for an experience that's truly a breed apart.
Twirling Candy, proving Lane's End's stallion-making tradition. Twirling Candy has seen success on the track and sales rate, siring multiple Grade 1 winners and millionaires, including Exalted, Beyond Brilliant, Gear Jockey, and reaching 7-figure yearling and 2-year-old sales. By the legendary Candy Ride. Twirling Candy, a leader of his generation.
Grayson Jockey Club Research Foundation was formed in 1940 with a simple goal: to raise funds for research to enhance the health and soundness of horses. Since then, we've provided millions of dollars to hundreds of projects at universities around the world, leading to major advances in welfare. Our process of selecting and producing peer-reviewed research has become the trusted industry standard. And with your help, we'll be here for many years to come, supporting the health and wellness of all horses.
Back with you on our Fox Sports 2 coverage. Regional networks out in SoCal. You're watching America's Day of the Races as we get set for the Pick Six coming up on this gorgeous Sunday afternoon here at Belmont at the Big A. Today's day 2 of fall, right?
Yes.
Thank you. This was my favorite moment of the meet that I gave was next, winning at Saratoga in that Birdstone, and didn't win by 25 lengths like he did last year. Did win by 10 lengths. He's now won 10 of 12 starts since he's moved to the Doug Cowan farm.
Just incredible. I mean, he's one of those rare horses that just continues to accelerate as he's going these marathon distances. And I mean, you can see when we talk about wrapped up and eased up at the wire, that's the perfect demonstration of it. The rider motionless, not even going to the crop at all. And he's a horse that he's spicy before his races, but he leaves it all out there on the track as well.
Death, taxes, and next winning in a marathon on the dirt. There's certainties in life, but connection they keep getting, because he wins by so much, keep getting asked the question, are you going to try him in top-level company, point to that classic potentially, or they might pivot, and it sounds like if they do take that shot, they might stay at the same distance, these longer distances, but switch surfaces.
Well, he's a horse that did actually start out on the turf towards the beginning of his career. He had run some races on the grass, so he's shown that he can handle it. So I understand that. But, you know, it's interesting. I remember when he won the Birdstone in Saratoga, speaking to the connections and asking if the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup was potentially on the table. And it was something that had been considered. And I really wish they had taken a shot in there. I think it would have made things really interesting in the older horse conversation to get a chance to see him in there. But what you have to say, too, is that for Doug Cowens and his team, they have chosen races where they really feel that they're going to win, and he's winning. So as a horseman, that's your job as well, to get your horse into a spot where he can win, and I know he's been a tremendous ride for the Connections.
Picking the right spots, he's been dominant. I think their concern, too, is just he's going to have to go a little bit faster and maybe get caught up in that pace advantage he has. He probably won't be able to have it a mile and a quarter.
Yes, that's a very good point.
So potentially Breeders' Cup Turf we could see next. That would be something else.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, look who's back. The coach and the Preakness winner, Gate to Wire again, sees the gray in the Pennsylvania Derby.
And I was glad to see Jamie Torres be aggressive with him again, because this is the way that Sees the Gray wins his races. I think up in Saratoga, we just didn't really see the best of him in the Belmont Stakes, and him being able to control things on the front end. And one thing you have to admit about him, too, is when he starts getting comfortable on the front, then he fights. He does that little thing where he drifts off the rail, much like he did the Preakness. It's a very similar type of performance, but good to see him back in the winner's circle. A nice ride and a nice effort.
Yeah, look, it was a little shocking. We didn't see him, not that he lost, but we just didn't see him anywhere near the lead in the Jim Dandy. This is who he is.
Yep.
Back to what he does best and showing he can capitalize when he is on the front end. Sees the gray. The coach, D. Wayne Lucas, with this Preakness winner who now collects another Grade 1 win. Let's check in with Maggie. Maggie, your thoughts on that performance yesterday?
well, he got back to what works, and that is being aggressive and putting him on the front end. And so happy for jockey Jamie Torres and the legend Wayne Lucas. I caught up with him after the races, and I said to him, you know, Wayne, it's just incredible that you have kept such a legendary and long career going. Just celebrated your 89th birthday a couple weeks ago, and he said, I just bought 18 yearlings at Keeneland. I'll see you back here at 92. So he's never missed a beat, Wayne, and yeah, sees the gray. I think maybe that race yesterday missing some of the top players in the 3-year-old division, but he's definitely proven that he's about 3rd or 4th best when given the best possible ride. Now back to Next, the other gray winner on the card yesterday. He's such a cool horse. Watching him in the preliminaries, he knows he's the man. He stops and he looks at everyone and kind of just looks down on all of his competition. And it speaks to a horse that is intelligent, confident, and on a roll. So Luan Machado, I love what he's done with this horse. He never asks him for anything beyond what he's giving him, and he gives him quite a bit. Talking with trainer Doug Cowens immediately after this 2nd Greenwood Cup under Next belt, he said, look, there's a lot of things that have to go right for us to get to the Breeders' Cup. There's a long checklist of how he comes out of this race, how he's training, so on and so forth. But definitely, as you said, Greg, it's the Breeders' Cup turf. If we make it to the Breeders' Cup, it will be the turf, because it's not necessarily about the surface. It's all about the distance and this horse finding his rhythm. It's what they established when they took over training with him, that it's all about getting him out there and letting him find his stride. And he felt as though in the Classic they might go a little too quick and he would be forced to get out of that lethal rhythm that Next can get into. Guys?
He's been so fun to watch do his thing. 9th stakes win of his career. And let's go back to Seize the Gray. And look, Grade 1 win. He's now got 2 Grade 1s, got a Classic as well. So taking a look at this 3-year-old division, certainly not the weight Pennsylvania Derby that Travers holds. It's the unofficial 4th leg of the Triple Crown. But he's in the mix. If he could somehow pull off a shocker Breeders' Cup Classic, he's going to be your 3-year-old champion.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of it does hinge on how the 3-year-olds run in the Breeders' Cup, because as Greg mentioned, you've got Seize the Gray, who has a Classic, a Preakness, the Pennsylvania Derby, yes, a Grade 1, but not kind of up to that level. Then you have a horse like Dornoch, who has the Belmont Stakes and the Haskell. Then you have Fierceness, who has the Florida Derby, a prep for the Kentucky Derby, yes, a Grade 1, and the Travers. What weighs more? Who would be better? Hopefully they all go out and lay it out on the line in the Breeders' Cup and it's decided there. But right now it's very wide open, because then you also have Torpedo Anna, who in her division, as far as the fillies, you'd say that's wrapped up. But the boys, very, very interesting as far as that 3-year-old.
Yeah, it's going to go to the bitter end to see what happens, these final preps, and then, of course, what happens in the Classic. So it's going to be fun the rest of the year in through early November, championship weekend. So we look forward to it. Take a look ahead at next week, what's to come, and some runners who have aspirations to be there at Del Mar on championship weekend, lining up, you would think, in that Joe Hirsch Turf Classic, Woodward, and then Pilgrim and Vosburg.
Yeah, looking forward to all those races. It's going to be really fun with that big Saturday coming up. Plenty of greatest stakes action.
All right, so we hope to see you next week. Another big week coming up at the meet. Back to the 4th here. It kicks off this Pick 6. We're approaching the 6-minute mark to post. 1-turn mile coming up, and these New York-bred maiden claimers. Let's go back down to Maggie.
Yeah, Greg, we're just going to check in with one horse here. We will have a slight delay here. We're getting a saddle reset on number 6 in here, Kilkerran. But I want to talk about the horse coming back off of a layoff, and that's number 3 in here, War Chrome, who is protected off the bench for Michelle Giangiulio and her connections. A horse that when you watch his last race, he doesn't really come out of the gate firing. You know, he breaks fine, but he just doesn't find his stride that quickly. And for me, I always find that more ground kind of mitigates that struggle to get into one stride. So he's going to come back and go the mile. Yes, it's tough to do off of a said 6-month layoff, but he looks incredibly fit here from Shaw. I'm very actually pleasantly surprised at how fit and defined he does appear, and he has the physique to say that this mile is not out of the realm. And too, Greg, he's just kind of the horse in this field that's the unknown, that's appealing because he's the unknown, as this is the bottom level for these New York breds, and we kind of already know who everyone else is.
4-1, 2 sprint, stretch out, like that quite a bit, but it has been 6 months now since we've seen this one.
It has been, but I was glad to hear what Maggie had to say about this horse because I was really interested in him. And yes, when you do have that kind of layoff, you have the opportunity to run for the waiver in which they're protected. Michelle doing that, which I think is a positive as well to get him a race off the bench. And he was kind of off slow and running on between horses. And sometimes when they are outfitted in sprints, they do benefit from getting more ground and getting a little bit more time to get into their stride. But he's a horse, yes, he hit the front and flattened, also kind of speaking to a horse that might benefit from a little bit more distance. And he just has fewer excuses, I should say, than several others in this field.
Katie Davis there getting a leg up on that 20-1 shot to 6. We're going to kick off our post parade here with Four Eyes, who was 0 for 14 from the rail.
He's had a lot of chances so far, coming off of a 5th place finish where he was at least a little bit more forwardly placed.
Triple word score, another one who's starting to become a career maiden.
He has, but though he did finish 2nd last time out at a monster price.
Here's Warcrum. So there's 2 sprints now going longer for Michelle G and Julio.
Very intriguing back off the layoff, and like that he is protected in this spot.
Francisco Martinez, fill-in mount on slow down Big Andy.
He had trouble at the start last time, but he has not shown anything yet on the track.
Rick Ductro Jr. barn with Stanley Ruff.
He was very far back last time out. I do like the mile for him, just waiting for him to run back to those earlier races.
Here's Katie Davis for Barclay Tag.
On Kilcarron, who is a very tricky type of individual, was very badly behaved last time out.
Beaten favorite for State Bred Maiden 30 last start, Burning Beauty.
And he was pushed quite wide in the stretch, kind of a chain reaction, but it didn't seem to be making much of a dent there.
Linda Rice, second off the claim, Big Ego.
And back down to the 40,000, the level at which she claimed him, but he really disappointed at a short price last time.
Distant third in a similar spot last out, Albedo.
And he comes out of that same race as Burning Beauty, was also impacted and impeded in the stretch closing.
And sandwiched between 2 turf starts, a dirt start for Jansen 2 back that looks very compelling against this group.
Yes, I think now we can be sure that he is not a turf horse, and so we'll stay back onto the main track today, which is where Jansen does belong. Finished 2nd behind 2J's Way, who would come back to win again after that.
Earn a 20% exacta bonus today just by playing with Naira Bets. Play the races at Belmont of the Big A. Get that 20% bonus on your exacta winnings. You got to opt in to take advantage at nairabets.com. So Jansen, Dylan Davis will ride from that outside post. And let's go 2 starts back to that effort we were referencing when this one was 2nd, beat a half length against a horse who'd come back and win again.
Exactly, and like I said, the dirt is just his preferred surface. This was the first dirt start in a while with the blinkers off, and he was getting to the winner, could never get by that one, who, like you said, has turned out to be in pretty good form recently, but a horse that was chasing in 3rd early on, and they put some separation between them and the rest of the field, which you always like to see. He has been at the maiden 30 level for a while, and he's run enough races to make you say, okay, maybe next time will be the time, maybe next time will be the time. I think the question is, when do you stop making some excuses for him and try to look elsewhere?
Here's Warcrum continuing to impress out there in a warm-up here. Haven't seen him since March 14th. And see what Kendrick Carmouche does with this horse, stretching out, going to this mile distance for the first time. This was the last time that we saw him back at Aqueduct.
And he was off slow, as we mentioned last early, but closing between horses, he's got that big white face right there, and it did end up actually hitting the front only to be run down. And sometimes, you know, that can be a little bit deceptive when you say, oh, well, horses that hit the front maybe need less ground. But the ones that are run off their feet early, kind of make that middle move, trying to keep up and be out sprinted late, they often do benefit from having just time to get into their stride when going longer. And maybe that's the case for this guy. Yes, it's a tall order off the layoff, but backing up what Maggie said in the paddock, he looks beautiful out there on the track.
Wow.
So very intrigued to see what he can do today.
Touting himself, no question here on the return. Meanwhile, back to the favorite Big Ego at 2-1. Let's check in with Maggie.
Yeah, and given the warm-up that we're watching from Warcrum, you'd have to think that with the stretch out too, he's going to be forward. He's like a coiled spring out there on the track with Kendrick Carmouche. But Big Ego was incredibly disappointing last time out, in which he was with the racetrack and he just stopped. He had absolutely nothing when stepping back up in class to the maiden special weight. Now, truth be told, I have tried this horse many a times, and yet he disappoints me. So he'll beat me as a favorite today, but really, I can't find anything to say negatively about him, to not take him today, because he's warming up well, he's moving well, he looks great like every other Linda Rice horse that you see brought over. So she's done this before where they are very disappointed, they get a little bit of class relief and they show up, and he, prior to that last start, all of his other races make him a winner. Now, I wasn't planning on talking about number 6, Kilkerran, until Acacia said that he was acting up really badly in his last start. Well, this horse couldn't be acting better today. And I think it's a prime example of, if you had tuned in earlier with Smokin' Hot Kitty, with her getting back on Lasix as this horse gets Lasix for the first time, how much it can calm a horse down. And I feel as though it has done that with Kilkerran. Now, he's done absolutely no running on the racetrack, but maybe with the addition of that, it will move him up. He's incredibly fit and stronger too, having that race off the bench under his belt last time out at Saratoga, and to change of scenery here at the Big A. I'm sure chilling him out quite a bit as they're making their way back to the gate. Greg?
All right, Maggie, thanks. That would be probably a pick 6 carryover right off the bat, 24-1.
Maybe so. But that's a very good thing to hear, because it's a combination of things. As Maggie mentioned, with the Lasix can make a huge difference. He's second off the layoff and just quieter atmosphere. You know, we saw it, I think, most evident in the Godolphin horse, Beautiful Love, winning a stake where she just really did not fire at all in Saratoga, and she'd been so wound up in the preliminaries. Incredibly relaxed here at Aqueduct. Sometimes horses just handle this scenery, this quieter track, a little bit more as well. So Kilkerran getting some changes. I noticed they've added a shadow roll onto him as well. So we'll see if some of those changes do help him to be a little bit better today. He's also one that you can make some excuses and be forgiving. Non-effort last time, but he also has fewer excuses than some of the others.
Meanwhile, Big Ego stays the 9-5 favorite. Anytime the man who rides is aboard, that one is going to take more money than probably should. But look, this horse has form too, but the times it's been against tougher has been nowhere.
He does, and to Maggie's point, I mean, he looked great last time too, and he just really did not fire at all in that race. And he did run better when he was forward, showing speed 2 starts back to be second at this level. So we'll see what he can do getting back down to the maiden 40.
First time, yeah, against this type of level on a fast track. That was a muddy sealed track that day that came off the grass. And again, Warcrum continuing to impress the way he looks here. There he is, off the bench, going long for the first time after 2 sprints, stretching out to this mile distance. Kendrick Carmouche in those 10-strike racing silks for Michelle Giangiulio. Start of the pick 6 on our Sunday card. Let's go to Chris Griffin.
Jensen to the outside. Goes in. All set. And they're off. Good start towards the inside here. Now moving through is Warchrome. Warchrome taking a bobble there briefly at the start, but rushes up quickly, and now Warchrome is in front, is up by a half length. To the outside is Big Ego, who starts to move forward. On the far outside is Jensen. Then behind them is Slow Down Big Andy, a secured 4th. It's just going to be patiently ridden, and right next to that rival is Kilkerran. They're in the top 5 as they work to the backstretch. In behind them at the rail is Four Eyes, who's now in 6th, as a shared 6th with moving forward triple word score. To the outside of that rival is Albedo. The 2 at the back, Burning Beauty, and the trailer, Stanley Ruff. Pretty tightly bunched here as they work up the backstretch. 24.33 for the opening quarter mile. Warchrome is in front, and now Warchrome lets it out of notches, up by a full length. Big Ego continues to chase here from second. Just behind them, tightly at the rail, that's the big long shot, and Slow Down Big Andy. Jansen is trying to move forward. Also Kilkerran in between horses. Triple word scores in the clear, is now pushed along 7th. In behind them is Burning Beauty, and Burning Beauty is trying to make up some ground. At the rail, Four Eyes, losing ground quickly. There was Albedo. Stanley Ruff, still the trailer, 49 seconds flat as that posted half-mile time, and they reach the top of the stretch. War Chrome is trying to sprint away, and War Chrome is doing just that. Jansen is now in the clear, is chasing, and Jansen is coming after this leader, War Chrome. It is War Chrome. Kendrick Carmouche, still with a comfortable margin, is up by 3. Jansen is trying to cut into that margin, does so, but very just grinding away effort right now as War Chrome is still there. One more try, Jansen, War Chrome, Jansen, War Chrome holds on. Jansen up for second, then a photo. That was Big Ego with an oncoming Burning Beauty in 1 minute 39 and 4.
War Chrome ran to his looks here off the 6-month layoff. First time going beyond a sprint distance. Looked pretty good doing it.
He did. I think he's fortunate, too, that he was able to get clear and get comfortable and then had Jansen running him down. A horse that often runs well, but not necessarily a winning type, because you could see, and it's a mile off the layoff, is a tough ask. The strides did start to shorten a bit, and when Kendrick Carmouche went to the crop, he started swishing his tail, and he's like, okay, I'm ready to be done now here, but he had enough in the tank to hold on. And look, to have him ready to go a mile off that kind of layoff.
Extra credit for that.
Extra credit indeed, and he was able to hold on. A nice training job by Michelle.
Close for third. We'll make it official in just a moment, but Kendrick Carmouche gets it done on War Chrome, who gets out in front early and just enough late to hold off Jansen. It is Big Ego, the favorite, who is able to salvage third.
Yeah, and a tight photo over Burning Beauty, and I have to be a little bit disappointed once again in Big Ego.
Let's go back to the start and watch War Chrome out of the gate. Kendrick getting to the front.
And once again, not the sharpest break. He's not the best gate horse, but Kendrick Carmouche asking him there, not hustling too much and giving him a chance to kind of get into stride. And it's that rhythm that Maggie was talking about earlier as well. And once he was able to get out to the front and get comfortable, that was really what made the biggest difference as well. Very handsome son of Central Banker as well.
3:10, 8-7 finish. Got 2 today for Kendrick.
Yeah.
3-1 winner here. So an upset, slight upset to start off this pick 6 on our Sunday card. As War Chrome. It's not going to be a track record performance by any means, but impressive, at this level to get it done too off that kind of a layoff.
And a win's a win, and he was protected with the waiver, so Michelle Giangiulio has some options with him now moving forward.
Louisiana in the house again. 2 on the day for that man right there. Kendrick Carmouche, War Chrome. 6 months away, going longer than he's ever gone before, and able to just get it done to kick off our pick 6.
He always showed up. From June at 2 and through 2 championship seasons, week after week after week of consecutive works. That's toughness. He always showed off. You know all about those 4 G1s. Here's his maiden on the Derby undercard. That's brilliance. Now his yearlings are at the sales. That's opportunity. Essential quality. Showtime.
Back in our Sunday coverage here on Fox Sports 2, America's Day at the Races, brought to you in part where you can play all the races we're bringing you and beyond at Naira Bets. Pick 6 on the Sunday card begins with War Chrome off the 6-month layoff for Kendra Carmouche, Ken Strike, and the trainer standing by with Maggie.
Here with Michelle Giangiulio. What a segue! We nailed that. We're saying we like being more right than Andy. We don't often find that to be the truth, but Workroom today coming back off the bench and stretching out in distance. Michelle, you could see it in him in the prelims that he was ready.
Yeah, he's been doing really good. I was confident in him today. You know, the mile was definitely a question, but he's been doing really good. He's one that I tend to get on in the mornings. He's a fun horse to ride. Yeah, he's very quirky but straightforward. You kind of always know what he's going to do. So I'm really proud of him. He's been a hard one getting to the races. Definitely showed a little talent in his last start, and we had a little bit of an issue out of the race, and just happy to get him back.
In winning fashion too, and you mentioned getting on him. I can imagine he looks like a little show pony as well, like a show horse, because he's so flashy. But how much of an advantage is that for you to kind of feel what's going on? Because sometimes you're on the ground, you get to see it, but also getting to feel how they're moving too.
Yeah, I feel like I have an advantage with this guy because he has his issues. He definitely needs a few days out of his breezes, things like that, and some other riders just aren't as patient with him and let him warm up and things like that. But yeah, he's been a fun little horse. I'm glad to get the win off the layoff.
Really great summer, keeping things rolling too. For a smaller barn and a smaller string of horses that you have, how imperative has this summer been for you?
It's been really good. Yeah, I have a great team of people that work for me, and we got better horses. We've been trying to just have good quality over quantity. So right now I got 16. We had 3 wins in Saratoga, which was huge. Most horses on the board, so yeah, hoping to keep it going.
Awesome. Keep up that great work. Well done here with Workroom.
Thank you.
All right, Michelle, having Workroom ready off the bench. He was able to get the job done. Kendra Carmouche with 2 on the card too. Greg?
Yeah, indeed. We saw this trainer have that incredible celebration at Saratoga. It was a couple of summers ago with that first ever win there. Happened live on our air. Great moment. And she is doing a very nice job. We mentioned all these big name, female trainers that are doing historical things, but this is another name we should throw in the mix that's up and coming.
Absolutely. I think Michelle does a great job. Her horses always look great. She had Workroom ready, and I loved getting a chance to hear her insight about how she gets on him. And, sometimes that just really is such a huge benefit as well, to be able to have that feel and have that rapport with a horse in preparation for a comeback race. So a horsewoman that really has her hands over everything in the barn.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Late pick 5 time.
Let's go.
Here we go. We're going to kick it off. $40,000 claiming race, all for sale for that price. Non-winners at 2 lifetime. Mile and a 16th on the turf to begin it. And Wish List, John Terranova, Flavian Pratt opens up as the favorite.
And she and Highway Harmony coming out of the same race last time out. Wish List was the one that really had the poor beginning, though, stumbling and coming from very far off of it.
All right, well, much more on this field to start this very difficult late pick 5 sequence on our Sunday card coming up. We're going to take a timeout. We're going to talk next week ahead, including one you know well, Farbridge, Sword Dancer winner, looking to get back to action and hopefully move on to bigger and better things on championship weekend.
75, $774,000, $775, want to be 60, that help you, 60, 75, 760, 60, 75, and now 85, 785, 85, 85, 800, $800,000 Piker Surge, got to be 8, now 25, 825,000, 50, $850,000, 50, 850, 75, about an $860,000 and a half, $850,000 in the back of Woodrow, thank you.
And my friend, it will be Garnet to win the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got them. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NyraBets.com.
Racetrack Television Network brings you every race, from every track, on every screen, every day. With monthly packages starting as low as $5, RTN gives you great value and access to more live HD streaming and race replays than anyone. Visit RTN.tv today to sign up and watch on almost any device, including Roku and Amazon Fire. RTN has packages that start at $5 per month.
My favorite race is the Pilgrim of 1992. I'm going to run Dr. Elfus. It's with Eddie Maple. Jim Ryan calls me up the morning of entries and said, listen, I wouldn't mind running a wad in that race. And I'm like, really? And I said, well, let me see what I can do. You know, I remember having lunch with Mr. Drago. He said to me, I'd rather not be in an entry with another horse in a race. And I said, well, Alan, listen, he's still a maiden, you know, trying to get a check, just trying to get a piece of it. I don't think he beats your horse.
And they're off. Dr. Elfus comes out running and gets directly to the lead.
Dr. Elfus is just cruising on the lead here with Eddie. At this point, you know, I think I've got a great shot to win it with Dr. Elfus, but at the same time, Awad's running a big race.
Moving toward the top of the stretch, it's still Dr. Elfus who turns for home. And his mate Awad is right there. They're 1-2 now as the field turns for home.
I'm thinking, oh crap, if this horse beats this other horse, I might be in trouble. They're dueling with each other. You know, which one's going to win it? I mean, I'm thinking at this time, like, holy mackerel, I'm going to be 1-2. Now, I'm supposed to be elated. I'm walking downstairs thinking, I can't believe I just ran 1-2 in a stake, and I might have blown an owner over this. Because Awad was a maiden, nobody came for the race. Jim didn't show up or anyone. That was a turning point in Awad's career, and it went on to be bigger and better things. It was a defining moment in my career, winning the Pilgrim. I think a defining moment for Faye and I, that we could have a stable that could be successful in New York.
Hello, you have reached the house that Awad bought. We're not here right now, so if you leave your name and a number and a brief message, we'll get back to you as soon as possible.
He did so much for us. He did so much for my career. Those horses don't come around very often.
I always love seeing that story. And he's upgraded the Jets cap as well.
I know.
David Donk.
Wow.
He's got the new look going on. No bigger Jets fan than D-O-N-K, donk, donk, donk.
He's got some excitement this year, so I can understand needing the new cap.
Artemis Girl, he's going to send out in this race coming up. What do you think?
Blinkers on. She is one that is taking a drop in class. So while her last couple of races leave a lot to be desired, this is her first time running for a claiming tag. So there is always that. It's often the biggest drop. But I just wish that she's shown a little bit in our last couple.
Yeah, 22-1 right now. We'll see if that equipment change can make a difference at all for her. The favorite still down on the inside, wish list. John Terranova. Yeah, 2-1. It was third beat a length for 50 non-winners at 2 off a short layoff last start.
And like I said, she and Highway Harmony coming out of that same race. Highway Harmony was one who had a much better trip that day. She was forwardly placed. She hit the front, got run down late, whereas Wishlist stumbled out of the start, was last by several lengths, and had to be closing late in the stretch there to finish third. So I can understand preferring her, though she is one that I guess got a little bit of a class test and showed last time that she fits at this level.
Let's go to Graham for a moment. Graham tried going longer last time out for the Christophe Clement barn. 9-2 right now. And speaking of that barn, how about that win they had this summer? And the Sword Dancer shocked a lot of people. Andy Serling picked this horse.
He did, and it was a great call. Farbridge, who, as we've discussed several times, he's a bit of a quirky type. He's got a ton of talent, and the best move and a great ride by Joel Rosario. And just Joel at his best when he kept him on the rail to keep him from having the opportunity to lug in. And Joel saving something for the stretch. He had the two Godolphin horses right behind him. And as soon as they kind of loomed up, I said, oh no, they're going to catch us. But he dug in, he fought. He's a horse that, like I said, he's got a lot of talent. And it was so great to see him be able to put it all together there in Saratoga, winning the Great Lakes.
Yeah, beating the highly regarded Measured Time and Silver Knot, that duo for Godolphin. This is the Clement runner in this race coming up to start this late pick 5. Let's go to Maggie.
Yeah, let's check in with Graham here in the paddock. And while this is her 4th start at Naira for her 3-year-old campaign, this is actually the first time I'm seeing her. And I definitely, relative to what I observed as a 2-year-old, am seeing a completely different animal. She's really grown, she's really lengthened her frame, but she's also really become far more relaxed and mentally mature. And while I was surprised to see her so far back in her first route race going back to August 25th up at the Spa, there was really no intention on her to go forward. And then she swung 8 wide around the second turn. So she really didn't have any chance given the trip that she was given that day. I like what I'm seeing physically from her, and now that she's kind of pairing these races back to back, she's strong, and we'll see where they place her. She isn't at the most advantageous post position, being on the outside, but I like what I'm seeing today. I definitely want to give her another shot going along as she drops in class. Though the horse that I think could wire the field is number 2, Super's Lucky Lady. She also has one route race to her credit, and was a pretty good one back in her 3-year-old campaign in the fall last year. She physically looks like longer is better, and she is in a prime position to be able to control this race from the start, inside post, with that speed that she'll carry over from those sprint races earlier on this summer. I like what I'm seeing from Super's Lucky Lady today. We'll see if she gets the run of the race, Greg.
Their race going this distance, probably the best run she's had of her career, and she'll get an opportunity to go a mile and a 16th again coming up.
Absolutely, and she finished second to Spooky Lady that day. This was back in November. Spooky Lady much more seasoned, and we've seen her many, many times on the track kind of steal things on the front end, but Super's Lucky Lady finishing second that day. I thought it was a solid effort, and even last time out, kind of what we were talking about even in the last race, watching a horse sprinting that just looks like they are have a running style that will appreciate longer. That's what I thought about Super's Lucky Lady in her last race. She was off a little bit slow, had to be hustled up, and then kind of flattening, just run off her feet a bit. And when they get to go longer, and as Maggie said, with the natural speed that she does possess, she could be able to get into a nice flow on the front.
There's not a ton of pace in here. Is she the one in front?
Yeah, I think she is. I definitely think she is, especially stretching out. And Romero Mirage is a rider that will be aggressive going forward.
There's Cuz. Romero. Cuz Naraj. Hope he's doing well. We miss him.
I know.
See if Romero can pick up the win here on, one who looks like she should be in front. But here is still the favorite at 5-2. Wish list for John Terranova. And let's take a look back to that August 16th race and how it began.
Yeah, the 5 Wish list, she does have a bit of a stumble here where she trips coming out of the gate and then just takes a few strides to kind of get comfortable, and she ends up dropping back pretty far last. And so you're thinking here, wow, she's really going to be up against it. And she's typically a closer, but she loses contact with the field. And so for Highway Harmony, who's the 2 in there, like I said, having a lovely trip, getting run down, the closer's coming from her, but Wishlist just having much more work to do. She gets out of the gate better today.
And in the end, after all that, she's only a half length behind her at the end. So not that much really separating these two, but with a clean break, Wishlist looks like she could be awfully tough. Highway Harmony's going to be favored by post time, I would think.
I would think so. I think the disappointing thing about Highway Harmony is that she's one that finally dropped in class last time out. She was the favorite that day, and then she hit the front, only to be run down late. That's always a little bit tough, a tough pill for me to swallow, but she does have some natural speed as well. She was able to get comfortable in a slow pace, two back going 9 furlongs.
Yeah, she is favorite of the doubles, Highway Harmony, the 6th, so probably that's a good tell of who's going to be her post-time favorite. Here comes our post-parade. We'll start with Wish List, and we'll see if she can get a better break out of the gate today.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully better than what she experienced last time. And even all that considered, she still ran well, closing from off the pace.
Pratt rides for John Terranova. Here's the two supers. Lucky Lady getting to go around ground again.
And very intriguing with her stretching back out, especially given her tactical speed, also dropping back down in class.
Saw that feature on David Donk. This is his filly. We'll put blinkers on.
First time in the dropping class for her, so that's a plus, but she's just shown nothing and no speed in her last 3 races.
Bertrill, when she broke her maiden, she was 100 to 1.
She was a monster price. Ran on the turf 2 starts back, not showing too much.
Downtown Channel is coming out of a stakes race in which she was overmatched.
And broke through the gate that day, too. I was surprised to see them take a shot there. I think that she belongs here.
Here's the one who just out-finished Wish List. Last start, Highway Harmony.
Hit the front and then got run down. She has tactical speed, which is to her benefit. Just 1 for 11, not necessarily a winning type.
Miscreant, Jose Lezcano for Phil Serpy.
She had that race 2 starts back down at Gulfstream where she ran quite well. Did not show much last time. You would have liked to see a little bit more punch from her.
Allie's Song has had 1 turf start. It did not go well.
No, it didn't. She's getting another chance in here. She's a monster price, and she should be.
All right, so Graham, second time going longer. What do you think?
Well, she is getting a drop in class as well, and she was pushed widest on the turn last time out as well.
And Alette Doro, Jimmy Ferrara, barn outside.
Brooker Maiden against fellow New York breds, 2 starts back, comes out of that same race with Highway Harmony and Wish List, though she did not show much in the stretch.
5 minutes away. First leg of this late pick 5 as we go back to Downtown Channel. And as you mentioned, broke through the gate in that Susie O'Kane. Broke her maiden during that Belmont Stakes Racing Festival at Saratoga.
And she was a big price that day, and she certainly had plenty of turf pedigree to like the grass, but the race really fell apart. And that was a maiden race that I really preferred the horses that were kind of up close versus the ones closing, like Downtown Channel. And she showed that with her stablemate Awesome Check just being so much stronger than her and her subsequent starts. But how about Ricardo Santana, who's in town this weekend here in New York? Won 4 on the card yesterday, including the Noble Damsel, and he'll be back aboard Downtown Channel here.
Yeah, he's got some more big opportunities to come, but he took the early double on the card, and then, as you mentioned, had 4. And I think in the last race, too, really interesting on one who could be setting the pace in Red Burgundy.
Yes, absolutely. Rides a lot of horses for Horacio de Paz. I know they have a go back a long way together in Downtown Channel. I think on the drop-in class, a player, and she's a pretty generous price.
Well, the 1, the 2, the 6, and I guess you probably throw in the 9, too, as you mentioned, dropping your class. Does it sort of revolve around that group?
I do think so. I think a lot of it depends on, as well, who is able to get the right kind of trip. We have seen on the turf courses here in New York since coming back, there's been no rain, and it's been beautiful, and we're appreciative for that, but it does seem that you really want to be on the inside saving ground, and so that's why I do think a horse like Super's Lucky Lady could get such a great trip, being able to control, getting a chance to stay on the rail, and that's going to make it a bit tougher for a horse like Graham. Dylan Davis is going to need to be able to drop in and try to save some ground as much as possible.
Pick 5 pool, we're approaching $300,000. Let's go back down to Maggie.
And while we see Wish List and Highway Harmony kind of exchanging favoritism at the moment, I don't necessarily have a big problem with either of them. But taking a look at Wish List, she looks great. I don't know how trustworthy she is. This is a filly that was offered twice for $16,000 at Monmouth. Nobody went in for her, and then they take a shot, upper and level, 50 non-2 life, and she runs very well despite having a fairly rough trip and I should say a rough start. I think her trip was fine thereafter, but maybe a little against the way that the race played out. I have no problems with her physically. She looks great, but the fact that she was offered twice for 16 at Monmouth, leaves a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. As we'll move on to number 5 in here, that's Downtown Channel. She's one of those odd English Channel fillies that usually English Channel throws a horse that can be a little bit more narrow, a little bit more lighter framed, so therefore always looking incredibly fit. This horse never looks fit to me. She never is tucked up in her barrel. She's kind of small. She's not the most athletic looking individual. I get why people might find her appealing. I just wish she'd done more maturing now as a 3-year-old. Greg?
All right, Maggie, thank you. We are up and over 300,000 now in that Pick 5 pool. As we look at now, she is the favorite here. Highway Harmony, as we expected for Jorge Abreu with Irad Ortiz Jr.
Absolutely, and you have Irad Ortiz. That's certainly going to hurt your price with a horse that's taking attention, and not to mention one that, like her, she is often right there and often does take some attention. Like I said, the biggest question I have for her is, especially when dropping in class and being the favorite last time, she got a good trip and she hit the front and then got run down late. That's always just going to be a bit tough for me to take, especially moving forward and at a short price once again. But she's a horse that certainly has run fine in her 3 turf races, at least since coming back as a 4-year-old, and this will be your second time for a claiming tag. She's certainly a player. I just thought there were a couple of other more interesting ones.
I mean, do you look at that common race too with Wishlist and the fact that, you know, the bad start we showed you, there's just more upside for Wishlist than this filly?
Sure, there is, but I also see what Maggie's saying, and that she broke her maiden for $16,000 at Monmouth, and so maybe Connection's just not really thinking Wishlist was quite that good. But she showed last time that she could hang with this level, and honestly, it was a tough start, but maybe it did actually help her a bit because she came running late and usually is a closing type. Either of these two are totally fine, but I thought that some of the others dropping in class for the first time or getting some changes were more intriguing.
And, you know, we talked about the 2 is probably going to be in front in here, but this one, the 6, probably, if not right there with that one, going to be sitting right behind her.
She should be, yeah. Her tactical speed is definitely a big advantage. I thought with the way that the turf is playing, that was going to bode well for Super's Lucky Lady. But any of the horses that we talked about dropping in class, I mean, Downtown Channel, she was getting an aggressive warm-up throughout from Ricardo Santana, and he's usually a guy that will try to get some forward position. If she's able to be a little bit more forward, dropping in class for the first time, getting some major class relief, and she, though, has had some trouble with the gait in her last few starts, if she's able to break cleanly, get into position, maybe the softer company will bode well for her too.
There's Irad Ortiz Jr. adjusting those goggles on the 2-1 favorite, Highway Harmony. Rematch with Wishlist and Super's Lucky Lady, the 2 filly, stretching back out for the first time since November of last year when she just missed in that state-bred A other than allowance company. As we get set for the load in a tough Pick 5 sequence coming up, we have a couple of maiden races in the mix too that are impossible to narrow down.
Yes.
Or I shouldn't say narrow down, you can narrow down, but to find maybe a single,
Very
good
tough.
luck.
Well, in race 7, you will get a chance to see Skytown, who finished second on debut to Sacrosanct, the horse we saw win the Bertram F. Bongard.
Speed inside, second time out for that one. Pick 5 starts here. Good luck. Let's go to Chris Griffin.
Downtown Channel. Alette Doro.
One out.
Goes in. All set. And they're off. Highway Harmony has speed in between horses, and there's Super's Lucky Lady also wants to be in that early mix, and Super's Lucky Lady will secure the front and takes him into that first turn. Highway Harmony is just off of them, is stalking now from second. Tightly at the rail is Downtown Channel, now progressing is to the inside here of Ali's Song. They're going to share third and fourth. Out wider is Alette Doro, is about in the 4 path, is tracking from 5th. At the rail behind them is Graham, who's now in 6th. They're very tightly bunched in that front grouping. Artemis Girl is now well settled towards the back end of the field with Bertrill. the 2 at the back. That's Artemis Girl with Miscreant, and they work to the backstretch, and Super's Lucky Lady's got the lead. Super's Lucky Lady, mild pressure from Highway Harmony there from second, 23 seconds flat for the opening quarter mile. At the rail, now progressing forward. Downtown Channel is just waiting for some running room, is still to the inside of Ali's Song. Alette Doro out in the center of the course is now taken third in that leading group of 5 as they got less than a half mile to go, and there's movement from the back. And here comes a run from Miscreant and Bertrill, and those 2 are on the move. They travel as a pair, and they are trying to circle the field, and they have changed the complexion of the race completely. 47.38 for a half mile time. 5 of them are lined up here around the turn as they get set to reach the top of the lane, and right in behind them is Downtown Channel, now watching 5 of them across the course as they reach the top of the lane. Miscreant and Bertrill, they traveled as a pair, and they are the 2 in front. It is Bertrill who's trying to extend the margin. Miscreant goes right with this rival. These 2 are trying to find a final furlong. Will it be Miscreant to the outside? Will it be Bertrill? Or will it be Downtown Channel on the grandstand side? Highway Harmony is cut loose as well. Bertrill is almost there. Bertrill at 68-1. Bertrill over Downtown Channel. Then came Graham, late rally there. Highway Harmony's in the mix, and also Miscreant in 1:42 and 3.
She's got a knack for lighting up the tote board. 100-1 when she broke her maiden. 68-1 here, getting her second win of her career.
This was a wild race. Bertrill with the win. She was hard to make on paper, but as we expected, the 2, Super's Lucky Lady, set the pace. She had Highway Harmony right there as well. And then there were 5 horses across the track coming into the turn. And it looked like Miscreant was going to be right there. She was also a big price. Bertrill right there as well. And then a couple of horses actually re-rallying. Downtown Channel and Graham both looked done. And then once they got outside, they started closing late. It was a very oddly run race in here, Greg, and a big upset.
Unbelievable. Luis Rivera Jr., trainer Bruce Brown. And 68-1, she was not even the biggest price on the board somehow, but potential one leg in to have a carryover in the late pick 5.
That was.
And I think we already do in the pick 6.
That was a tough one to have. Yes, that was a tough one to have.
Let's go back to the start.
Pretty clean break here. We're going to see the number 2, Super's Lucky Lady, who looked to be the controlling speed on paper. She's not actually quickest out. It's actually Highway Harmony that was quickest, but Romero Mirage able to secure the lead in that inside position, which as we thought would be beneficial, but she was not alone on the front end. Kind of that middle pace injection where everybody wanted to move forward, and those kinds of races are when you end up seeing some wild things like this happen.
68-1 and 26-1 here, battling down the stretch. That 7, who was that big price as well, would fade to 4th. Downtown Channel, Graham runs 2nd, 3rd, but what a shocking start to the first leg of this late pick 5, 68-1 upset for the Bruce Brown barn. And look, we're only 2 legs into this pick 6, but I can't imagine we don't have a carryover.
I would certainly be surprised. Like I said, this one was really tough to make on paper, but it really was an oddly run race because it looked like Graham was going to finish last at one point, and then she re-rallied. Downtown Channel was kind of spinning her wheels. She kicked in again late. So an oddly run race, but Bertrill, hats off to Luis Rivera Jr., who quietly has had a very strong year keeping up with the toughest jockey colony in America.
Yeah, good for him. What an upset. What a shocking start. Got the late pick 4 at least to regroup coming up. 4, 5, 9, 7 here in this 5th to start off this late pick 5 sequence. That's it for you this weekend. Yes. Good to be on the set with you for a bit.
Yes, absolutely. We rarely get to do this, so a lot of fun, and looking forward to being back at it next week.
All right, Andy Sterling stepping back in after a timeout. We'll take you through the late pick 4, and we'll talk this Distaff division with championship weekend just about a little over a month away. Idiomatic, is she back? Is she the one to beat in the division? Stay with us.
Nothing stood in his way. War of Will won the Preakness.
At the line, War of Will. That's a photo for the win.
War of Will, standing at Claiborne Farm.
Welcome back to the program. It's America's Day at the Races, and we are brought to you by Naira Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime, and hopefully you bet Bertrill today, because the 2 times that Bertrill has won and made it to the winner's circle for $2, she has returned over $340 to her backers. As I'm pleased to be joined by winning trainer Bruce Brown. As you said, I can't figure her out of when she wants to run and when she doesn't, but when she does, she pays dividends.
Yeah, it's there's no way to describe it. I mean, and you could tell, like, down the backside when she wants to run, she grabs hold of the bit and she just kind of takes Louis there. And it was when that horse moved early, I was like, oh, now she's going to have to move early and maybe she'll flatten out. But she just kept rolling.
Well, you mentioned Louis Rivera, too, who had won on her, and he was just talking with you of wanting to get back on her and maybe recreate the same magic. It worked today.
Yeah. We said we were kidding, in the paddock like last time. Let's see if we can do it. Not really thinking that it would happen, but we would have been fine just to hit the board. But she just really fought game, and to make that kind of big, wide move and then be able to sustain it down the stretch, she really she was good today.
I watched a video from the Saratoga Special Guys, Tom Law, of your son, Nicholas, and it was with her. And he said, and Tom said, well, why do you love her so much? And he was like, because she wanted 100 to 1.
Yeah, she is one of his favorites. I think they're all his favorites, but she's definitely one of his, and she's a real sweet filly, so he really likes her.
Oh, that's sweet. Always your sidekick here representing the Bruce Brown Barn. Congratulations with this win.
Thank you very much.
All right, Bertrill. Wow, when she wins, it's definitely exciting, Greg.
100 to 1, 68 to 1. We'll see what happens. This is not an easy pick 4 the rest of the way. We have a chance we have another pick 5 carryover coming up.
Well, I think we might have had a double pick 6 carryover if the thing had if somebody hadn't randomly hit it yesterday. Or maybe there's a lot of people at home thinking, I'm glad it didn't carry into today, because that was a hard horse to come up with, but happy to see Bruce Brown get the win.
Yeah, well done for this barn. And Luis Rivera Jr., who was aboard for that win at even bigger odds when she broke her maiden last November here at Aqueduct. So $138.50 start to this late pick 5 as we move on to race 6. And the good news, we have a pick 4 to begin again. New York Breds, maiden special weight, mile and a 16th on the grass. And Leon Blue opens for Melanie Giddings, is the 6-5 favorite.
And of course, named for the late Leon Blushewitz. So it was a very popular figure around racing, a very colorful guy, and a man who knew how to put some money through the windows in his day, and he certainly won his share of races as a trainer. And I think one of the things that's interesting in this race and then the next race, because Melanie Giddings arguably has the horses to beat in both here and the next race with horses that ran well in their first starts. Melanie Giddings horses ran well up in Saratoga. We saw her and Sean Bridgman teaming up for some horses that surprised and ran extremely well. Sometimes it's hard. Do those horses come back to New York as run as well? Were they cranked up for their first start? No doubt Leon Blue ran very well. And as a 2-year-old, I'm not as worried about him stretching out effectively second time out. I'm frankly more worried about him coming back and running as well as he did in his first start. And the same could be said for the number 1 Hit the Post in race number 7, who ran a huge race first time out.
Very quick early, you would think, too, from that inside post, going 7 today. The 1 and 2 are going to take a lot of attention in that 7th race. Let's take a look at this Distaff division now with what we saw in the cotillion yesterday with Torpedo Anna, who now there are some question marks eking in to how dominant she potentially could be when she gets her chance to face older company. Her first test against older company will be in the Distaff.
I imagine Bob Baffert, who trains at Dare Manor, who knows, she could be close to favorite, if not favorite in here, and Brad Cox with Idiomatic. We're not unhappy to see Torpedo Anna not run the same kind of race she ran in the Travers, but I'm guessing not of them are taking her lightly because every horse is allowed to have one race that's not quite as good as the rest of them.
And look, even in defeat, this seemed like a bounce-back effort for Idiomatic.
This was probably the best race she's ever run in her streak, frankly, or I should say in her streak where she has won. Because she got involved in a massive duel with Randomized, who was close to eased in there and is now out for the rest of the year, and she still held everybody off. And while Raging Sea is probably a somewhat inferior horse to her, she was able to take advantage of circumstance. Raging Sea is okay, and Chad Brown did an amazing job winning Grade 1 with her, but Idiomatic's race in defeat was brilliant.
Kind of set up to win, took advantage, look, credit to her. But yeah, Idiomatic, this was a huge effort, and there were questions about her had she lost a step coming into this race off that slow race at Monmouth.
And maybe a race like this is kind of good for her to get it sort of going again. Now, you look at that race because all 3 of them, Torpedo Anna, Adair Manor, and Idiomatic, are forward horses. Now, Idiomatic is the one who needs to lead. But if you look at Torpedo Anna and the good races, forget it before the Travers, she got involved in some pretty hectic paces herself, and she buried Ways and Means, just FYI. Horses that have a lot of talent. She buried them in speed duels and went on to big victories with fast figures. So she is capable, when she runs well, of revving it up early, running with a horse like Idiomatic and still finishing. Adair Manor's forward as well, but she has shown the ability to sit off horses a bit, as she did when she won the Apple Blossom. She's very, very good, and she does have a little bit of a home court advantage, right?
She does. Expected to run against the boys at the Pacific Classic. That did not happen. Bit of an injury issue, but we hope to see her back. And she is an absolute monster. I would think it's tough because it's such a story with Torpedo Anna too. But it seems like it's either Adair Manor or Idiomatic, or probably Adair Manor is going to be favored.
It's going to be interesting. That's a good question. Because Torpedo Anna, if she had won impressively yesterday, she would have been favored. I think you would agree with that. I think the race yesterday draws some questions, whether fair or unfair. I think they are fair, but it would be unfair to say, oh, I don't like her off her race yesterday. That would be a little bit ridiculous. Adair Manor has been absolutely terrific. She easily beat a horse who came back with a decent effort and finishing second in our Grade 1 Ballerina, and she's very, very good. We'll see. I don't know if she's running the Zenyatta either this weekend or next out at Santa Anita. I hope she does, and I hope she runs well, because we don't see the 3-year-olds face olders that often before the Breeders' Cup anymore. So this is when they need to square off and settle the issue on the racetrack.
And for Torpedo Anna, her first chance to do it is going to be in the championship race.
And I don't, by the way, I don't care if she runs last. She's still the best 3-year-old filly in the country by a mile. And you can criticize her performance all you want yesterday. Very few horses go through an undefeated season by running brilliantly in all their starts. Some of the greatest of all time have done it. Torpedo Anna is allowed to have a less than terrific effort down at Parks, coming off that race in the Travers. We'll see what she does in the Breeders' Cup, but nothing that happened yesterday should detract from how incredibly well she has been running this year.
Bottom line, class prevailed, and she eked it out when she was not at her best. I would expect we see her at her best on championship weekend.
I hope so. You want to see the best horses show up on the big days, and that's one of the things that made that Travers such an forgettable day, because you saw Fierceness run his good race. You saw Torpedo run their good race, and then battle it down to the wire in a race where there's always a loser, but there wasn't really a loser in the efforts that we saw from the top two. And even Sierra Leone, in finishing third behind a moderate pace, he ran the best figure he's ever run. These are pretty nice horses.
Get to the 6th coming up. Mile and 16th on the grass. Start of the late pick 4 favorite, Leon Blue. Stretching out from 5.5 furlongs. There he is to a mile and a 16th. Here in start number 2 for Melanie Giddings. Joe L. Rosario will be aboard the 3-2 favorite when we come back.
He possessed such natural athleticism.
It is Golden Pal winning the juvenile turf sprint.
He's very, very agile and quick.
Golden Pal has repelled the challenges.
Each and every race, he just got better and better.
Golden Pal broke like a rocket. Golden Pal, wire to wire.
He's a very confident horse.
Golden Pal, the lead is out to 5 lengths in deep stretch.
He's just got a brilliant mind.
They're all behind Golden Pal.
I'm going to be breeding everything I have to him.
You just have to get in the seat of a John Deere Gator XUV 835M. Not because of the spacious cargo box.
We're always picking up rocks out in the field, and the hydraulic bed has been really nice.
Or because it can tackle any terrain.
It can handle anything.
Not even because it tows up to 4,000 pounds.
We can pull things around easily.
You just have to get in the seat, because something about being this productive just makes you smile.
It's made life a lot easier.
Learn more at johndeere.com/get-in-the-seat.
He's a running son of a gun.
Papa Cap now has the advantage.
A graded stakes winning 2-year-old. Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Juvenile runner-up at 2. Multiple Grade 1 placings at 3. Finished in the top 4 in 11 out of 12 starts.
And from here on in, it's just a matter of how far. Papa Cap, an easy winner of the best, pal.
Papa Cap, standing at Walmack.
The 2024 Global Symposium on Racing, celebrating 50 years of being the premier networking event of the year. 50 years of connecting the who's who of racing and collaborating face-to-face with key decision makers. Discover the latest technology and innovation while being a part of the international conversation. Join us December 9th through 11th. Register at racingsymposium.com.
Covering almost 300 acres near the borders of Vermont and Massachusetts, New Hill Farm was established in 1984 by the parents of current owner Lily Kobielski. She says she's guided by one principle.
It's got to be all about the horse. You know, everything we do is to make sure that we're raising healthy, happy racehorses.
Yes, that's me. Lily's husband, Maciek Kobielski, is a famous fashion and portrait photographer. Lily is both a photographer and freelance writer whose work has appeared in Vogue and the New York Times. It's not surprising that they love living surrounded by beauty at the farm that Lily took over from her mother a few years ago. And they believe it's a good place to raise both children and horses.
You know, we'll have as much as 45 horses at the farm at a time, which gets a little crazy.
Lily grew up riding and showing hunters and says her children appear to have inherited her love for horses. Whatever path they follow, New Hill Farm will always be a farm.
Very committed to conservation, so all of the farm is protected as farmland. And about 70 of the acres are fenced off for the horses.
Pays to have a New York bred. For more information on the New York Thoroughbred and Breeding Program, go to nybreds.com. We have a New York bred maiden special weight coming up in the 6th race start of this late pick 4 on our Sunday card. Mile and 16th on the grass, and it's this one who's the short price 7-5 favorite, stretching out. Start number 2 from Melanie Giddings' barn. Let's go downstairs to Maggie.
Yeah, I think that Leon Blue is going to be pretty tough in here. He's done everything that I hoped he would have out of that first race. He's fitter, he's way more professional, and he just has a physical makeup of a horse that wants to go this mile and a 16th distance. But he'll take on some first-time starters out of dangerous barns, and we'll begin with the Graham Motion trainee. Coming in from Fair Hill is number 3, Jack and Jim, son of Slumber. Now, Slumber, with the limited amount of mares that he covered / progeny, hasn't had that many horses, but obviously they all are turf horses. But he is 1 for 10 with first-time starting 2-year-olds. And on the bottom side, the dam's a 2-time turf sprinter in France. This is her first foal. Though, despite her being a sprinter, this guy definitely wants long. He's very tall, leggy, kind of a rangier type of frame to him. And he's a little bit on the unfinished looking side in that there's some more developing to do. But with that being said, he looks fit enough for what he is now. He is taking money, and I do respect him coming in here. Moving on to the Chad Brown debuter, number 5, Daytona Moonshine. They paid $105,000 for this horse after working 10-1. But while it was a slower time than what we're used to, it was done in the right way. This horse was never asked by the rider, never felt the crop, never even really had the reins shaken at him. Has a really nice extension to his stride. He was quite washy that day, and I forgot to look if he was a gelding at that point or if he has since now become a gelding. I mean, it says 6'6". I don't know if I really trust those dates, but probably they did geld him in the interim. He is a really refined looking horse. He's kind of a little bit more of an elegant looking animal, hence being a gelding, but comes in here fit, really well spotted for these conditions, and doesn't have an abundance of turf pedigree, but looks it. And the way that he moved in that breeze, really high floating kind of stride to him, just everything that translates well to the turf. Moving on to a horse that I wasn't necessarily expecting to talk about. That's number 12, Solo Mio for Dave Donk. Unfortunate post position for him. And while he's a son of Solomini, there is some pedigree especially if you go back a generation. The second dam, Stella Blue, she was 3 for 10 on the turf here and in Europe, and the dam Half to Serious Prospect, to multiple stakes winning in Europe, winner on the turf. And looking at him, big burly colt, not your kind of typical Solomini. Usually they're chestnut and they're a little bit smaller and compact. This guy has a lovely frame to him, a lot of length to him as well. So while he's probably not 100% fit, one I want to watch and how he performs today, Greg.
All right, Maggie, thank you. We start our poetry with Miles and Miles' turf debut.
There is turf pedigree. It has a King Moon racer, a couple turf winners, but I wonder if it really is bred to go long.
Palmisio turf debut.
Still have a couple turf winners, and, so there is some turf pedigree there at 50-1.
Graham Motion first-time starter, Jack and Jim.
The Dam was a turf winner in Europe, but not much racehorse. Slumber gives some turf pedigree, and so does Graham Motion.
Sky Masterson will stretch out.
We'll see if he can wire the field. He does look like the speed.
Chad Brown, first-time starter, Daytona Moonshine, the 5.
The Dam 1 and 9 turf starts wasn't that special. The 2-year-old sales work was pretty impressive, though.
Another first-time starter. Next door, we're both intrigued by a bit.
This horse has a huge pedigree. I picked this one to take a shot in the pedigree, and obviously it's taking no money, so probably not a good sign.
I'm Solo in Love. Debuted sprinting 6 furlongs on the grass.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say based on the first race. This horse is not competitive.
Linda Rice with a first-timer, just licorice.
It's a Justify, but there's no turf on the dam side. You kind of wonder if you get the turf from Justify or if maybe this is a race to get a race under the belt to go back to the dirt next time.
Christian Maldonado will be aboard Resistance Futile for Bruce Brown.
Bruce is looking to go back-to-back at a big, huge price here. That'd be some Bruce Brown double. That's an underway.
68-52 to back-to-back would be tough. Nano Joe for Rudy Rodriguez.
Better be a different horse today.
I thought a little interesting. Here's Leon Blue taking all the money.
Yeah, I mean, this horse ran very well first time out and stretches out effectively. He's a likely winner.
And Solomio outside 10-1.
This horse is getting bet, no question about it, to be 10-1. A first server Dave Donk on the outside. And as Maggie mentioned, the second dam, a very good turf horse. And as I'm going to, of course, mention, as you know, Greg, a very good Grateful Dead song, Stella Blue.
As you just informed me.
There was an American horse named Stella Blue who was in the stable with a horse named Scarlet Begonias. So clearly they were naming horses for Dead songs many years ago, but I don't know if the European was named after the song.
So 5 minutes away. The 6 coming up. So pre-trial statement. First-time starter, nearly 40-1. Dan was a 3-time winner on the grass and was stakes placed.
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, she won 166,000. She ran an 86 buyer. She was hit the board in 12 of 20 starts with 3 wins. She got 3 foals to try the turf. They all won. 2 of them ran buyers in the 60s, but one of them ran a buyer in the 90s. So, I mean, there was some talent in there, and I don't know it's going to take a Herculean effort to be effective here. Listen, the way the horse is getting bet, maybe it can't run at all, and that could be the case. But there is plenty of pedigree for a horse at a huge price.
And look, Leon Blue ran very good first time out, going 5.5 furlongs. Maggie liked the appearance, but isn't that a short number on a horse trying to do something here for the first time?
Well, I don't like stretch outs for turf horses in general. I mean, but when 2-year-olds made their debuts, they're going to start out, a lot of them, in races, and they can go on and go well. What I like with horses race, didn't break well. Broke about a length and a half, 2 lengths down the field. Has to break better today. You can't keep spotting fields. But what I liked is how fastly the horse sort of moved into the race without the rider really asking him to be competitive in there. Then he just continued to move. Now, this was a race that, other than the winner, was sort of falling apart at the end because both Pay the Juice and Leon Blue were running hard at the end. Now, the winner came back and won a very small field, but did win a stake the next time out on the turf. And Leon Blue ran extremely well in this race to be second, all things considered. The one question I have more, as much as the distance, because you never really know, this horse could be a closing sprinter, it's always possible, is the way Melanie Giddings' horses were running in Saratoga. Sometimes when a barn is they were clearly geared up for Saratoga, as a lot of barns are, they don't come back in their starts when we come back down south and run quite as well, especially a second-time starter. However, those are all intangibles you can only guess about based on this horse's performance. And the other thing is, I don't think there's any killers in this field. Maybe the Chad Brown horse is good. I don't know. But he's not getting bet like it. They're betting a little on the Grand Motion Slumber. But wouldn't you also, there's a possibility that they're betting the 3 and 5 because they don't find anywhere else to go? The only other horse that's taking a little sneaky money is Grand Motion towards the outside, unless you think Sky Masterson, is Dave Donk on the outside, unless you think Sky Masterson's going to wire the field.
Yeah, look, with the 3, that dam was a 2-time winner on the turf, was great at stakes place, and this is the first foal. Look at Grand Motion barn, always dangerous, especially on the grass. So 7-2, that one's interesting. But wow, board is telling you Leon Blue is going to be tough. We will see. 9-5 as we go back to Maggie.
Let's go off the rails down here trackside. So we'll take a look at a 64-1 shot, one of 2 Chris Engelhardt horses. You heard Andy say, both of which having some sneaky turf pedigree, but Palmisio is a horse that we don't see many higher powers. He was a horse for John Sadler out in California. He ran 2 times on the turf, 1 win in allowance company, and then second in a stake, but much more accomplished on the main track. He's had he hasn't had any winners from his progeny to run on it, or to win on it, I should say. The dam was on race, but this guy is half to 2 turf winners of 2 that tried the turf, and he is big and good looking. And while the turf possibly definitely wants the distance and just really made a lovely impression throughout these prelims so far. As we'll also take a look at another horse who has some experience, was disappointing in his debut, not showing much speed whatsoever. First time was number 10, No Joe. Will add blinkers with the stretch out. A horse that caught my eye first time out. Did so yet again today. So I feel like there is some ability in there. We'll see if they've been able to tap into it. I think longer is going to prove best. Now, we see a first-time starter for Linda Rice taking some money at 10-1 is number 8, Just Licorice. I kind of agree with what Andy was saying in that this might just be a prep. Because he definitely doesn't look that turf meant, to be perfectly honest, and he looks as though he needs to strengthen and develop a bit more. He's been taking some nibbles throughout, but I think taking the wait-and-see approach is the best course of action. Greg?
All right, Maggie, thank you. Look, if this 11 does not run to what everyone's expecting in here, this becomes a very wide-open race.
Well, I find something interesting about the betting. And maybe it's a big positive for Jack and Jim. And maybe a horse named Jack and Jim is getting a lot of money because it's 2 common names in it. Having said that, I'm a little surprised that this horse, no disrespect to Graham Motion, who certainly can win with the first turf, but is a shorter price than the Chad Brown horse, with Irad Ortiz, no less, which makes me feel like the 5 might not be that good. You know what I mean? From the betting. In which case, if the 11 doesn't win, and now it's 3-1 and 9-2, I'm starting to think the 3 might be okay, and he might be the one, you know, that you kind of want in this race.
To be fair, I mean, there is more turf pedigree with the 3, and it's...
There is. No, that's perfectly fair. That's a great point. That's a great point. The Dam was a winner on the turf in Europe, but she won much worse. Just because they win in Europe doesn't mean they're good. But you're right. There is definitely a lot more turf in that pedigree. I agree. But there was a very nice sales work on synthetic for Daytona Moonshine.
And again, for the Chad Brown barn, it usually doesn't matter if there's turf pedigree.
Right. And Irad is riding.
They win anyway on it.
It just all this makes me feel as though the 5 may not be that good. So does that open it up for some goofy horse like my ridiculous 6 at 47-1? But you know what? No first-time starter in turf races with pedigree is ridiculous.
I was going to say, I don't think that horse is ridiculous at all.
Right. If you're going to get wacky prices, it's going to be, a lot of them are going to be in maiden races on the turf, first-time turf horse with pedigree. And maybe the 6 can't run at all. It's probably the case, but there's too much pedigree not to take this price.
Maggie brought up the horse too, but I think it's a big price, probably deserves to be a big price, but Nano Joe, the 10, is interesting to me. Second time out with blinkers going on for Rudy Rodriguez.
All right.
But maybe
11-3.
Leon Blue is, just too good for this group. Maybe it becomes a very logical race. We're about to find out. Chris Griffin, the call. Here's the 6 from Belmont at the Big 8.
Now 2 out. Pre-trial statement and Solomio. Is in. All set. And they're off. Sky Masterson breaks with early speed and right towards the front, and here from the outside is Leon Blue. And now Leon Blue is the leader. Leon Blue is up by 3/4 of a length. Here now rushing up in between horses. Yellow Cap there is Resistance Futile, wants to go and now challenges this leader as they work towards that turn. Just off of them is Solomio. It's going to be 3 wide in that second grouping. Couldn't cross over and save ground to get towards the inside as they're moving quickly up front and very keen on the front end. There's Leon Blue, who's now 3/4 of a length in front of Resistance Futile. They're still that clear. First and second. At the rail, Sky Masterson, then outside, that's Solomio. Behind them comes Nono Joe, is in 5th. Just behind them comes Jack and Jim, is tracking from 6th. Red Cap, that's I'm Solo and In Love. It's a very comfortable hold there on Miles and Miles. It's just traveling patiently towards the back end of the field with Just Licorice, the 2 at the back. Actually, there's one more back there, but it's going to be pre-trial statement. Daytona Moonshine and Palmisio can see them all. 4:08.51 for that half-mile time. To the inside, it's Leon Blue. To the outside, it's Sky Masterson. And these two start to move into that turn together. Less than a half mile to go. They are head and head. And just off of them, here comes Jack and Jim. Jack and Jim is on the move, is now only 2.5 off the lead, is moving quickly and behind the battling duo as they approach the top of the lane. Leon Blue and Sky Masterson, they continue to duke it out, and Jack and Jim has every shot, and Jack and Jim is in full pursuit. 3 across the course, and here comes Jack and Jim. Leon Blue is still finding more towards the inside. Then Sky Masterson in between horses. Jack and Jim trying to straighten up, and here comes Jack and Jim. It's Jack and Jim to the outside of Leon Blue. Jack and Jim is your winner. Leon Blue came back for second, then came Sky Masterson and Nono Joe in 1:43.1.
Jack and Jim, second choice on the board, 3-1. First time out for Graham Motion. Runs down Leon Blue, who ran very good in defeat. They went quick early.
I agree. This horse got an extremely good ride and trip for Manny Franco, and it certainly helps to break inside. They were moving up front, and even the 4 Sky Masterson, who wasn't able to make the lead, they were going so quickly that he had to take back. He made a real run at the favorite. Came out interfered with the eventual winner. It looks like a little bit there. You'd have to see the head on to be sure. But Leon Blue, man, he lost, but he ran extremely well. Way too well to lose in this race, because I do think that first quarter probably was pretty quick. Greg, they put so much separation in the field that quickly. They had to be going fast, right?
Seems like it. Long way back to fourth. Jack and Jim, first time out for Graham Motion. Madacat Stable Silks with Manny Franco. Your 3-1 winner, 3-2 favorite. Weakens late to second, but again, big effort in defeat here. And Sky Masterson hangs around late too.
Yeah, no, I was saying, I thought he ran fairly well. He was forced to rate. I think if you like Sky Masterson, you thought he might try to wire the field. He ended up having to rate, and he still ran a competitive race. Gary Contessa's, he quietly had a pretty good Saratoga. I'm sure he had a positive ROI given some of the winners, but his horses ran pretty well up there. He had some 2-year-olds that ran well.
3-1, beating a 3-2 favorite here in this first leg of the late pick 4. First time out win for Jack and Jim for the Graham Motion Barn. We're going to take a timeout. We'll talk Classic Division when we return in City of Troy. What will his impact be? Coming to Del Mar in early November. Stay with us. Back with you on our Sunday coverage here on Fox Sports 2 of America's Day at the Races. It's brought to you in part by Hillendale at Alapa. Late pick 4 underway. Jack and Jim. First time out for the Graham Motion Barn. Breaks his maiden Tell me.
This horse is owned by, well, this horse is named for one of Saul Kuman's partners, Jim Carrey, and his son, Jack.
Love it.
Yep.
Downstairs to Maggie.
That's great because I want to call him Jack and Jill, but Jack and Jim today with Manny Franco aboard gets the win at First Asking Manny, and a really advantageous trip for you, but also speaks to how professional and well prepared this horse was.
No, Graham been doing a great job with his horses by years. So this horse was ready to perform today. I can feel it when I'm taken away from the pony. It was all business. In the race, he just he's learning first time out, but in the backside, he kind of jumped on the bait. He wanted to go, but then I grabbed him and he switched up, so I was able to get my position behind the speed. And when he was dying, I hit the clear, and he still he don't want to go by at all, but I had to work on him and he went. But I think it's a horse that he have a lot of talent.
Definitely will move forward from that effort today. And two, were you surprised to see how fast they were going early on? It was a really strung out field early.
Yeah, I mean, the horse outside, he was coming from 5.5, and I knew that he's gonna be on the pace. And those horses was chasing him, so I feel that they was going fast in front of me, so I was happy where I was, like I say. And in the backside, he just jumped on the bait, like letting me know that he's there, so I say, okay, so I just had to guide him, and that's what I did.
Us watching the races on TV, we have the luxury of seeing the fractions put up. But as a rider, for you, is it easier to judge how fast you're going on the turf or the dirt?
I mean, I think you have to be aware of both, it's not easy, but when you've been riding every day, so you learn. Yeah. So definitely you have to keep an eye on that.
You definitely have a great feel for it, Manny. Congratulations here.
Thank you, Maggie.
All right, Manny Franco with Jack and Jim. Big effort, first time out to break his maiden, guys.
Manny Franco, always good to see him in the winner's circle. Visits there quite a bit. Again, last year led this circuit in victories. Third time in his career.
I love Manny. I'm president of the Manny Franco fan club. Love to see him do well. And terrific job. Listen, he got the trip to win it. I think there's no argument Leon Blue ran the best race, but sometimes you don't win as the best horse. You get the trip, and give credit to Jack and Jim and Graham Motion for having him ready to run his best race first out.
Race 7, 2-year-old sprinting on the dirt 6 furlongs. New York breds trying to get that first win of their career in Skytown. John Terranova, second time out, was second behind Sacrosanct, who we saw won by a country mile earlier today in the Bertram F. Bongard.
I feel like we've seen exaggerated results, probably due to maybe a little bit of an inside speed bias. The track was maybe exaggerated the results. The thing is, and he could certainly win, as you say, he was flattered by that performance. If Hit the Post breaks cleanly today from the rail, and that's always an if, he's going to be in front here. I mean, it's almost a miracle how well he ran last time out in a fast race that fell apart going 7 furlongs. If he breaks, he's going to wire the field, in my opinion.
All right, well, more in this field coming up shortly. We're going to talk Classic Division as we work our way to championship weekend out at Del Mar. And one of the really intriguing invaders who will be making the trip for the Classic Division, City of Troy, for Aidan O'Brien. He has called this horse like Giant's Causeway, but quicker. Pretty high praise.
Yeah, I'm a guy, whoever I hear horses getting incredibly hyped wherever they are in the world, I immediately start looking to find flaws with him. He's obviously extraordinarily good. He was an incredibly good 2-year-old, and he's been tremendous. He did not run well at all in the English Guineas to start his year, and you had to wonder, and Aidan O'Brien didn't lose confidence in him, kind of made some jokes about that, but he was dead right. He wins the Epsom Derby. He won the... I know this race, the Jumpman International, he won a race in between them two, was the Coral Eclipse. He's been very impressive, and like the way he and the second horse put a lot of distance between themselves and the rest of the field, he's very, very good. Coolmore brings these horses over to run the Classic because Coolmore's smart and they know how to make money. Because he has nothing left to gain, basically. Keep in mind, they're going to stand him at stud anyway. But if he's able to be effective in the Classic, it opens up the avenues to breed here as well, the way Giant's Causeway was so effective breeding here. It opens up a new market for him, and it really increases his value. If he doesn't, like Galileo, who didn't run, I actually think Galileo ran well in the Classic. He was buried on a dead rail, sort of a hidden good performance by him, but he wasn't a dirt horse. This horse is a Justify. He can handle it, but he feels like he's going to be underlay of the century in that Classic for a horse that just hasn't shown that he can be effective on the dirt.
We will see. Of course, Galileo almost pulled it off for Aidan O'Brien, if not for Tiz Now. Let's get Maggie's thoughts on what we've seen from this horse of late working out.
Yeah, well, they had a kind of mock-up race at Southwell 2 days ago for City of Troy, which is over a tapetum surface in which Aidan O'Brien, his masterclass trainer, paired him up with 4 other horses in which they all broke from the gate. And let's be fair, when you're dealing with the other horses and mentioning them, they're about 30 to 40 pounds inferior than what City of Troy has proven to be when you look at the handicap rating system there in Europe. But City of Troy did what he needed to do, and Aidan O'Brien citing that it wasn't ever going to look flashy because they wanted a surface that was going to be more like dirt, be more prepared like dirt. And so for his first trip over such a surface, he got what he needed. It wasn't going to be flashy, but what he liked is that his stride never shortened. And boy, what a stride does City of Troy have. So I think that's the most impressive thing about him. And it was cool too, as throngs of fans that showed up to applaud him after this public workout in preparation for the Breeders' Cup Classic. And it's fun, you guys, talking about Aidan, comparing him to Giant's Causeway, who got very close to beating Tiz Now in the Classic. But Aidan feeling as though this horse could be better. And I also like the fact he compared Justify as a sire when City of Troy was kind of getting on this streak and getting his 3-year-old campaign underway and winning the Epsom Derby, is that he said Justify could be a sire. Very high praise from Aidan O'Brien, his words, not mine, could be like Galileo, but with their progeny having better minds and a bit easier to work with than the progeny of Galileo. So no doubt about it, connections incredibly high on City of Troy. We'll see if it truly does translate to the dirt. Greg?
Look, it's going to add extra excitement to what already is a marquee race in our sport.
I totally agree, and it definitely makes it more fun. I'm just laughing because nobody knows how to do hype better than Coolmore, and they certainly do it, and they do things well, and they're an incredible operation, no doubt about it. We'll see. Obviously a Scat Daddy who left way too soon, who was just really blossoming as a sire, and Justify's had incredible success early. We're just trying to figure out, you were reading me a quote where Aidan O'Brien referred to him as dour or doer. Which the actual definition is relentlessly severe, stern, or gloomy in manner of appearance. So we're a little confused as to what that means. Yeah. It could be, just ask Maggie, maybe it's another one of those backstretch words they use differently than the rest of the people in English.
Not sure, what he meant by that, but obviously the comparisons, this horse has big ability. He's proved it on the racetrack as well. Can he do it on dirt? We're going to find out in early November. Yeah. Fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to take a timeout. We'll be back. A lot more coming up. We'll get to the 7th with more when we return. And we'll look ahead to Moon Age Daydream in next week's action. We'll be previewing that in a few days.
Spun to Run. His brilliant speed figures were among the fastest of any 3-year-old at a mile or more. And he hails from the legendary Danzig sire line. Now, this multiple graded stakes winner, millionaire, and Breeders' Cup champion is passing his remarkable talent along to his progeny.
Night Beacon airs at the home of Spun to Run's Breeders' Cup victory.
Spun to Run, standing at Gainesway.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.
$1,500,000, Tom, thank you. $1,500,000, $1,700,000. Jody, thank you. 9.5. Thank you. On the back, $1,900,000. Thank you.
Please hold your applause.
You have to be here to feel the rumble from 40,000 race fans. Mixed with the Pacific breeze, you have to be here to taste extravagance and witness greatness race after race after race. You have to be here to witness unforgettable and to believe the unbelievable. This November, be at Del Mar for an experience that's truly a breed apart.
Four-Star Crook has found her best stride. She's got a lot of ground to make up. She's 6 lengths behind, but she's coming, and she's coming fast. Four-Star Crook just blew right by them. And from the back of the pack, Act Naughty is trying to get second. Four-Star Crook has done it.
I loved Four-Star Crook and the way she ran her races. That was back in the 2017 John Hettinger.
She was a tremendous horse. Michael Dubbs, you see the Silks, Chad Brown as well. I feel like she beat my sister Charlie in the Flower Bowl. I could be wrong, but I thought she may have beaten her in that race. Maybe I'm wrong, though.
Not the Manhattan?
No, it wouldn't have been against the boys.
No, that was the boys.
New York? It was the New York, Bobby?
Yeah, maybe the New York, I think.
Okay,
Sorry.
there you go. For some reason I thought it was the spring and fall, but no, it was the summer.
This year's edition, John Hettinger. I'll start with Moon Age Daydream. Flavia Pratt will be aboard for Jorge Abreu, comes off a win in the Yaddo at 1 mile and a 16th. What do you think about 1 mile and an 8th?
Very little. I don't think this horse is going to be able to win at 1 mile and 1/8. And also, I think she's improved and used her forward position to be successful in here. She also benefited from a sort of a wacky ride on Silver Skillet, who I questioned 1 mile and 1/8 as well. And Marvelous Maud actually ran pretty well. I don't know how good this race was overall. I feel like with Moon Age Daydream, this was your chance to make some money on her. But she does seem to be an improving horse. I'm actually a little bit interested in the new face in here. Can't Fool Me for Horacio De Paz. I think that horse ran very well to win that allowance race in Saratoga. It could be a horse ready to step up into the stakes company. I think Silver Skillet will get a more forward ride from Joelle this week.
Yeah, it typically had been on the lead, and that's how she was able to win back-to-back stakes wins, but that Yaddo was nowhere near the front.
Was it a mile 16th? For some reason in my brain, I keep thinking it was a
Yaddo?
mile. Yeah, I
mile
thought
16th.
Mile 16th. Okay. Well, so it's only a 16th of a mile longer. Okay. So race before at the Port Washington was a mile, I think. That's correct. Yes.
That was a mile and a 16th as well.
Okay, so I got it all wrong.
It's all right. So we'll
talk
a lot more of that. That's coming up on our Thursday action. Back to the 7th, and here's Hit the Post. Start number 2, Melanie Giddings' barn. Luis Rivera Jr. will be aboard. Let's go down to Maggie.
Yeah, we'll take a look at actually the 2 Mel Giddings trainees in here and begin with Hit the Post, Greg. Number 1, as he's a horse I thought physically looked the part last time out, though he was a first-time starter, and it kind of showed because while he drew the rail that day as well, he got away just a bit slowly, and then he ran off midway through that race. It got really engaged down the backside. When he hit the turn, he was clipping off heels. He switched to the outside and actually was on the lead by the 3/8 pole. So with some maturity, with a better break, I think this guy could set up to take this field here. He's impressive yet again, and if anything, he's actually stronger out of that race. Looks great shipping in here for Mel. Moving on to number 2, who also has some experience and flattered by sacrosanct blowing away a field in the Bertram F. Bongard. And Skytown, I was not in the paddock that day for his debut, but I thought ran very well. Just kind of chased the winner from the outside. He is quite small and very unassuming looking, as wearing blinkers as he did first time out. If I was blindly picking horses on appearances, He would not be in my top 4, though that first race makes him a definite player. Mel will send out a first-time starter that does attract Arad Ortiz, Romeo Void, but he's been preparing down here at Belmont. Now, he is a half to a horse who actually ran earlier on the card, a Kentucky-bred Fade to Gray, and this dam, Tap It in Silver, must be huge herself because every single one of her babies is enormous. And Romeo Void, very tall, a lot of leg to him. Kind of a little bit of that baby Huey type of impression, though, that a start might be needed here for everything just to come together mentally and physically. Is wearing blinkers first time out, Greg.
Maggie, thanks. Kendrick leg up on the Kenny McPeak first time starter that's taken, was 3-1 early on. It's floating back up now to 5-1. Here is Hit the Post and that good debut at Saratoga.
Yeah, I think we'll take a look at what happened early in that race because the running line is very deceptive how well this horse ran. But I think you have to ask yourself, will he be more professional out of the gate today? If he is, they're in trouble.
So again, Skytown second to Sacrosanct, who won the Bertram Ep on guard impressively.
And it may have been exaggerated by the racetrack, but you can't deny that.
Melanie Gidding Barnes, who has the 1 with this first-time starter as well, the 3.
Even with Irad, they're not jumping on this one.
Well, that's
have to fade to Gray.
Some good works, according to the DRF Clocker report. Okay. 2 Honest Mischief, Jimmy Ferraro.
Going to have to improve a lot off the debut.
Blinkers coming out of a stake, Resilient Hero.
As I said before, another one will have to improve a lot off the first 2 races.
Here is Magni for Mitchell Friedman.
Actually is a half to a reasonable horse on the dam side, but not getting bet either. A tough-looking race.
The Kenny McPeak first-time starter, Daytona Gold.
Maybe we'll show the workout. 9 4/5, impressive, but little distant 5th choice in doubles.
George Weaver, second-time starter that took money in the debut.
Yeah, this one took some money in the double as well. I guess people hoping he'll improve off that race where he finished behind the 2 horse.
Yeah, 3.5 lengths behind Skytown. Here's We Miss Neil.
A horse that's run twice and would need to improve.
Beach Invasion, debut was on grass.
Yeah, comes near, but it's really a turf pedigree, so I'm not sure why you would expect an improvement.
And a David Donk, first-time starter, War of Will debut or outside Just Clarity.
Not a terrible 2-year-old sales work of 10 flat, the second full from this dam, so who knows? I mean, 13-1 isn't a huge price for a Donk firster where there's so many horses taking money.
So let's go back to the one who is favored right now, that 1 horse. Hit the Post for Melanie Giddings in the debut at Saratoga.
Horse is the number 1 in this race. As you're going to see, even with the illusion of the inside, this horse clearly does break a length or so slow and kind of gets bumped in between horses there. You see right there, sort of forced over, and it's close to last at this point. And you watch the rider, Lee Rivera. Obviously, the horse is sort of running off a little on him, but he's trying to control him and get position in there. But he's in that tough spot inside. He does a good job getting him off the rail. And very soon, it's clear that he's going to see a little bit of daylight. And when the horse and Louis see some daylight, he's going to run right through it. And by the time they hit the quarter, he's just a length off, and he's going to be on the lead as the field turns for home. Now, this was a very quick pace in here. And I thought Mo Better Than Good, who ran second, ran very well being on the pace for Rossi to pause. The winner of the race, the Kenny McPeak firster, I'm sorry, Mo Better Than Good is Kenny McPeak firster that won. Second horse was 3 B's. That horse took it. That's the 2 horse who's getting the perfect trip on the rail, taking advantage of the pace, comes by. But considering the break, rushing up, all those situations, this horse ran very well, plus trying to go 7 furlongs. Now, he draws the rail again, but he's got the experience of a race. If he breaks cleanly, it's clear he has speed. We've seen that be an advantage in every single dirt race so far today, and it's going to give him a big advantage because he's got some bottom going 7, and he ran very well.
Yeah, I'd love to see that, too, that it was 7 furlongs, now cutting back to 6. It's just the fact he has a start under his belt as well. But that it was at 7 does not hurt.
But he's got to run back to it. He's got to break, and he's got to run back to it. And, you know, you were saying that his stablemate, Romeo Void, has some good works, according to DRF. The 7's 2-year-old work was good, and the 2 and 8 are no slouches either. So this is a competitive race, theoretically.
4 minutes away from this 7th. Meanwhile, Skytown, Sacrosanct, who this one was second to in the debut, won by, what, about 10 lengths in that stake earlier today?
Feels like a fair distance. Could have been more. But it feels like it was every bit of that, doesn't it?
Not to say, obviously, Sacrosanct probably moved forward, start number 2. There's no guarantee this one is going to, but pretty good barn for John Terranova that you do have faith in to move him forward.
Well, I mean, second-time starters could go 1 or 2 ways. A lot of times it's a bit of a guess. You don't really know. I mean, it's not the trainer. It's horse specific more than anything. I don't really know. I prefer the one in here. I think 7-2 is a generous price, but a lot of things have to go right.
Let's go back to Maggie.
Yeah, there's always a lot of ifs when it comes to these 2-year-old racing. And are they going to improve? Are they going to take a step back? Are they going to be professional? We'll see as we'll take a look at some first-time starters. And beginning with the Kenny McPeak trainee, that's number 7, Daytona Gold, working 9 and 4. Asked a bit with the crop at first, looked very rapid in that workout, but held his head quite high. And looking at him here today, he lacks a bit of conditioning behind the saddle, and 2, watching him warm up, it took him a while to find that push that you'd like to see from a horse when they begin their warm-ups. Furthermore, he was also a scratch. He was meant to run the same day as stablemate and occasional work partner Mo Better Than Good, but he was scratched, I guess, apparently due to some scratches or something, a cut on a front leg. So he comes back here and he looks very fit. He looks really professional in everything that he's done so far. I just wish he looked stronger behind. As we'll move on to the Dave Donk trainee on the outside. That's number 11, Just Clarity, 90,000 for this son of War of Will. Worked 10 flat. Was asked a bit, wanted to stay on his inside lead, reluctant to get over to the right outside lead, but had some decent action, covered the ground well. And that's what I observed from him here on this dirt track in the warm-ups. Nicely put together. Yes, with Dave Donk, you are typically banking on the fact that they'll need a start and they'll improve vastly for some racing experience and from a fitness perspective. And on top of all that, I do feel as though so far with what we've seen from War of Will and the horses that have hit the track for him, they've often been better on the turf. But then again, it could be poignant that Dave Donk opts to run him on the main track. Greg?
Maggie, thank you. Post time now coming up. 3-1, hit the post, but the 2 and 3 not far behind. The 8 not that far behind for George Weaver, second time out, who again took money in that Skytown race, first time out.
Yeah, I didn't see this horse do a ton of running in that race, ran fine. George had a lot of tough luck in Saratoga, a lot of second place finishes. We'll see. I thought Skytown ran better, but that doesn't mean it can't be reversed the next time they run.
No question. So tough to know who's going to take that forward step.
If I made a small play in the Big Four where I singled the 1, so I'll probably just sit with that. If I had been doing a little better this week, I'd probably take 3-1 and hit the post. But I'm going to let this horse win at 3-1. There's so many things has to go. The horse has to break. If the horse breaks today, I'll take my chances.
So Luis Rivera Jr. back aboard, and again an inside post.
But that was 7 with the inside post. It's the first start. A lot of horses don't break as well first time. There is so much BS going around about the inside post being bad on the dirt. The inside post won the first 3 races. There isn't a good post if your horse gets left. I understand that it's a little bit worse than the rail to get left, but it's still not good if you get left from the 7 post. And sometimes I think it's a little of an illusion because a lot of times watching 7 furlong race from the chute, it always looks like the inside horses are getting left worse than they actually are. So the statistics say that first-time starters breaking from the rail do just fine. It's like a built-in excuse, right? It's like one of those things that, oh, we have the rail, we can't win. Well, if the one breaks well, the rail's an advantage, actually, because the rail's been good today.
So we'll see how hit the post, if he can break a little bit better here. Start number 2 coming up. He's the 5-2 favorite. Chris Griffin with the 7th from Belmont at the Big A on this Sunday card.
To Honest Mischief. Resilient Hero and Just Clarity. Is in. All set. And they're off. Bold Fortune flew out of the gate. Bold Fortune quickly up by a full length. At the rail has hit the post, is trying to hold that position, move forward. Then Daytona Gold is hard sent as well from the far outside. Beach Invasion, Just Clarity, but getting right over to the rail was Bold Fortune. Bold Fortune got clear, got over to the rail, and is up by a length and a half, call it 2. Daytona Gold is right there leading that second grouping, is in second. Out wider, Beach Invasion is now a shared third, 22 and 4. The quick opening quarter mile at the rail, that's hit the post. And behind them comes Skytown, and Skytown's on the move from 5th. Also trying to move forward, Just Clarity. Losing ground was We Miss Neil, is going to be mid-pack, and Magni is under a hard drive now towards the back end. Resilient Heroes trying to make up late ground. Romeo Void is back there, and the trailer, Two Honest Mischief. They're all chasing Bold Fortune. Bold Fortune turns for home, and Bold Fortune showing no signs of stopping so far. It is Bold Fortune just striding away. Skytown is up into second, but Bold Fortune is just running away from this field. A final eighth of a mile to go, and Bold Fortune is going to cruise. Dylan Davis, Bold Fortune, going to win this one very easily. It's all Bold Fortune to win it. Bold Fortune wins it over Skytown. Then came a late run, hit the post, and Beach Invasion in 1 minute 11.33 seconds.
Bold Fortune broke like a rocket out of the gate under Dylan Davis and never looked back.
One of the reasons that Dylan Davis really showed people a lot in Saratoga is something that had never been in his trick bag before. He was never a rider in the past that was alert to biases. It completely changed in Saratoga. He seemed to be right on top of any bias we had, and it was clear that he had a plan to brake sharply and get to the rail. 5 dirt races, 5 winners on the rail, 4 of them by blowout margins. And it's clear that we have a bias that is exaggerating inside speed today. Taking nothing away from this horse, he was probably winning on a fair track, but the exaggeration is also due to the racetrack, and give Dylan Davis and probably George Weaver's crew as well some credit for knowing this was the kind of trip you wanted to win. This race was over 2 strides out of the gate.
8-2, 110 finish, and just from the outset, Dylan Davis, mind on business. He wanted that front, and he got it.
Yep, he did.
Like the horse hopped a bit, too.
Yeah, and Louis, I think almost because he was trying to ride him, and Louis Rivera was very passive on the one and sort of allowing him. Now, he had a big advantage. He probably couldn't have got in there, but certainly wanted no part of it. And oddly, with Hit the Post, he didn't want to run inside of horses because he was dropping back like he could be last around the turn. And once he got to the outside, he was better. So maybe if Hit the Post draws an outside post next time on a fair racetrack, he'll do fine. But maybe he's a horse that's just not happy inside.
4-1. Second time out, Bold Fortune for the George Weaver barn. Fortune Farm and Dylan Davis continuing to produce. Long way back to second, no doubt about a win. Bold Fortune, son of Central Banker. Impressive. Here in the 7th, all of the prices set up race 8 when we come back.
This proven son of Giants Causeway has sired 7 millionaires. With over 10% stakes performers, his recent top runners include Tarabi, placed in the Grade 1 Spinaway and Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, Grade 2 winner Plum Ali, plus these standout performers. A proven value sire, First Samurai, standing at Claiborne Farm.
Back with you on our Sunday coverage. You're watching America's Day of the Races. Brought to you in part by America's Best Racing. For the love of the race, visit americasbestracing.net today. Bold fortune. Bold move by Dylan Davis to say, I want the front, dropped down to the inside, and kept on going.
Yeah, once this horse cleared, I mean, the track helped, but I don't think this horse was not winning on a, I don't think this horse was losing this race on a fair racetrack.
Here he is at this point already in command and able to completely turn the tables on Skytown today.
Yeah, not really a lot to add to that. Just a horse that was able to dominate from front to start. A very impressive and fast win. But I do think all of these horses might be horses to just, keep in mind that these may be figures that come back very high, and the figures are accurate, but they're probably performances that are a bit enhanced by the way the racetrack is playing. And, if you're interested in my ideas on how the track is playing, dirt and turf, track trends are on the website, NYRA.com, under track trends. They're in the program, but they're on the website. Check them out anytime. You can listen, feel free to disagree, but I think it's a service we can.
68 to 1 shot started off the late pick 5. Bertrill. A couple of pretty logical runners. Blake's 2 and 3, but it does not matter what happens the rest of the way. This is going to be a massive late pick 5. It might even be a carryover.
Well, there's a $700 parlay, and there are 7 times 12. There's 84 combinations left. So, yeah. There will be some combinations not covered, but it depends who wins here. If my goofy horse wins here, the 1, there will definitely be some uncovered horses.
This race, 6 furlongs, turf, allowance optional claiming field, Never So Sweet. Brad Cox, Flavian Pratt, off since July 12th at Saratoga, is very quick early and comes out of a stakes race.
She is the speed. In some ways, it makes her the horse to beat. I don't trust her. I thought she was enhanced by the racetrack and her big figure winner 2 back, but she is probably the horse to beat. But Feather Boa is a very dangerous horse coming in.
States debut, for the South African import, who's a 4-time winner, 9 runner-up finishes as well. But this first start in the States is coming up, and this will be the shortest she's gone in a while.
75, $774,000, 775, want to be 60, that help you, 60, 75, 760, 60, 75, and now 85, 785, 85, 85, 800, $800,000 thank you, sir, gonna be 8, and 25, $825,000, 50, $850,000, 50, $850, 75, on $860,000 and a half, $850,000 in the back of Woodrow, thank you.
And my friend, it will be Garnet to win the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With NYRA Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with NYRA Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NYRABets.com.
The classic looks of a two-turn type, yet the precocious brilliance of an undefeated G1 2-year-old.
Maxfield, a breathtaking run at the top of the stretch.
Maxfield. He took it to the max in his chosen field. Now you need a mini Maxfield in your chosen field. His first yearlings are selling now. Maxfield. Classic looks and precocious brilliance. Darley.
It's America's original sport, and no one covers it better than americasbestracing.net. From the sport to the lifestyle, the best races, horses, and destination venues, cocktails, gambling, fashion, and more. americasbestracing.net is a sport for you.
My dad would bring me, and
I would just go out and watch the races, and I really enjoyed it. I think as a little kid, it's the pageantry of seeing the silks and seeing the colors, kind of surprising in the situation I end up now, that I'm still looking at the same thing. But to be able to experience that, I think that love of the sport and horse racing in general, it started there with my dad, just hanging out. There was just always something about it. Something always drew me to the racetrack to watch it as a fan. I started as a fan. I have always been a fan of horse racing, whether it's a maiden claiming race or a graded stakes race. I just love being around it, and I also respect the work that goes into it, you know, and the time and energy that people spend on each horse, each race, every single day. A buddy of mine actually invited me down to call a drag race in Houston, Texas, to cover for a weekend. When I went down there for the weekend, he said, "This is what you're supposed to be doing. I brought you down here to offer you a job." He offered me the job right there, sight on scene, took the job, and off and running we were. I was on the drag racing circuit at first, that went into my globetrotting days and doing the basketball thing, and then I found my way to horse racing. So it's been well over a decade now, and having a blast. I love sports. Being able to do it and be a part of it, forget it, nothing better. Horse racing, bar none, probably the most emotional sport there is out there. From the backside to the front side, the emotions that run through the horses and the jockeys, the connections, how much it means to them to win the simplest race or a stakes race and to hoist the trophy. And to be able to narrate that and be a part of it and know the history of the announcers that have been in the booth, how can you not feel that emotion? And I am always a fan. The first race I ever called was a 220-yard mule race in Humboldt County at the Humboldt County Fair in Ferndale, California. I was practicing in thoroughbred races and watching all these two-turn races and 6 furlong sprints. It was Bad News Bubba. He was 1-90 to win the race. He stumbles at the start. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. He comes back on the rail. They're all running, zigzagging all over the place, and I called the photo, and I called Bad News Bubba the winner in the photo. Got a text message from the man who hired me, and he said, "Excellent." That was the only word that he texted me, and I said, "We're off and going." Frank Miramati is who got me into the business. He actually saw me do a Globetrotter game in Arkansas when he was down at Oaklawn. And he came out and he said, "I didn't even know you had that in you," the announcing part of it. And then that led to where we connected at a racetrack, and then the career started. But I do also want to give the credit to John Embriol. The way that he carried himself as a professional, the grace that he took, the way that he did not need to be in the spotlight. Every race, same voice, same tone, just professional, tactical, technical, enjoyed the moment, and was the most humble man that I could come across, and somebody that I want to be like that. I want to be humble like John Embriol. I want to be able to learn more and more vocabulary through the right technique from a Tom Durkin. I want to be able to work alongside Frank Miramati and rock the house in New York for however many years that we're going to do it. And so being able to be part of that experience and to hopefully say, there's Chris Griffin, he's doing a great job for us, that's all that matters to me. My job, and what I'm going to do, is that when you're here and you pay to come through that turnstile and you come with your family or your friends, you're going to love this experience, you're going to make sure you enjoy it, and I hope you come back. It doesn't matter if there's one person in the crowd or 10,000 in the crowd. You've got to give the same type of performance all the time. I am just so grateful for the opportunities that I've always had, and that continues today to doing what I'm doing now. You know, 10 years ago, starting in horse racing, to be able to be here in New York, the top tier, the upper echelon of racing, not only in a national landscape, but a global aspect. Again, it's the best.
Perched high above Chris Griffin. It's great to have him here, and terrific race caller, even better person.
It is, yeah. But yeah, he's a lot of fun, Chris. There's no doubt about it. And he rides the subway. There's no better perch than that Aqueduct announcer's booth. I mean, you can just see everything perfectly. That's a great booth. The Saratoga booth.
I don't love heights, so
neither do I. But
yeah, it's gonna pass.
You really? You don't like heights? I'm terrible with heights. I live on the 16th floor, but I don't love heights.
Here is Ever So Sweet Speed for Brad Cox, the 4-5 favorite. Flavia Pratt will ride.
Yeah, and she is the clear speed, and maybe the second fastest horse early was on the payroll, who scratched out a year, and this was her race 2 back when she was able to clear. Now, I think speed was a real advantage this day, and it may have combined to help her run that 88 buyer. I know it was a much better field last time, but Greg, she was favored in that race, and she was not good. She really wasn't, and she didn't clear that easily. She only sort of got the clear lead when they took back the horse inside of her as they headed right to the turn. Was it a quick pace? It was quick, but they went 101 and 4. How slow are they going to go? Her last race scares me a little bit. Horse to beat, but wouldn't take 4 to 5 on her. The 7 is the unknown quality, right?
Complete
Or quantity,
unknown.
I should say.
Running races that all we have really to go on are figures that we look at from these different services, and they're pretty darn good. But how do you equate those? And it's very tough to tell.
The numbers I got from Timeform US are fast. I've heard, as you told me and somebody else, the Thorograph has numbers and they're fast. I don't love that she has 9 seconds in 17 starts with just the 4 wins. And the other concern is she's never run as short as this. She's running races at 7.5 furlongs, 7 furlongs to a mile and an eighth. Is she going to be as effective going 6 furlongs? Having said all that, she might be okay. She might just be the best horse in the race.
There she is. Aran Ortiz Jr. will be aboard for the States debut. Let's go to Maggie.
She's impressive looking. I am pleasantly surprised with what I'm observing here in the paddock with number 7, Feather Boa, as she makes her American and stateside debut here, coming in from South Africa. She's really well muscled, given the layoff too, dating back to mid-December, her last race there in South Africa, and obviously having to ship over. I've done that flight. It is long and acclimate. And, too, don't forget she's Southern Hemisphere. So there's a little bit of that as well. And with regards to the turn back, she physically looks like a sprinter. I don't feel quite right saying that given her pedigree, because her pedigree doesn't really make me feel as though that sprinting is what she wants to do, but physically she looks as though she should be fine at this 6 furlongs, and she looks ready to go for Todd Pletcher. Moving on to a horse that just has kind of caught my eye. I'm watching these as they prepare and get their tack on here in the paddock. And number 3, Off Ramp. Joe Sharp immediately took this filly for 40,000, mare, and switched her right over to turf sprinting. And it's paid off fairly well. Last time at Kentucky Downs, it is a little bit of a quick turnaround here. I thought Agra was fairly impressive, even though she only won by a neck there. She was kind of tracking and outside a bit more down the lane, but Off Ramp just looks as though she's doing very well, which I'm sure is what Joe Sharp and his team thought about when running her back kind of quickly here. Great coat to her, bright disposition here in the paddock. She truly has that turf sprint kind of physicality too. Greg?
Story of this race, what will we get from the import from South Africa? There she is, Feather Boa, 4-time winner on the turf, Group 2 winner, but the States debut coming up for the Todd Pletcher Barn. Stay with us.
I have 52,000 starts in my life. I've never seen one that could take as much as he did early and continue to improve.
And it is Godite.
He's strong, he's attractive.
And he's gonna win the hopeful.
He's extremely smooth and fluid.
Gunite is a tough customer here as they come on for the finish.
How sound he is.
Gunite got the jump.
Consistent mentally, physically.
He will defeat Elite Power in the Forgo.
Complete package.
Back with you on our Sunday coverage. Fox Sports 2, regional networks out in Southern California. You're watching America's Day at the Races in this 6-furlong turf sprint here in the 8th. Coming up next, we have an even money favorite on Ever So Sweet. Meanwhile, this one, 17-1. What do you like here, Andy?
The one? Here's my story on Isabel Alexander. She ran races last year, won in Saratoga, and won the race for Indiana, and even at Keeneland that I think make her competitive here, particularly the Saratoga race. But even the next race was better than it looks. So she was okay as a 3-year-old. Her races so far, the last 3 races at Gulfstream, have been crappy. And she's not going to win. She's not horrible, but she's not good enough to win those races. She's running 5-furlong races on that turf course they have down at Gulfstream Park. She had run well enough in her prior start. She never ran particularly well at Gulfstream in the past. She improved. I'm going to hope that she's a better horse than when she was running on that course going 5 furlongs. Now she gets 6 today. If she can refine that form as a 3-year-old, she's competitive here, and if she could build on it, she's good enough to win, and she's a very big price. I have some reservations about the 5 off her last race, though I can see why she's yours to beat. And who knows what Featherbow is going to do coming in here going this much shorter. After those 2, I'm not scared of anybody here if she can show up and run close to those races. So I don't mind taking a shot at a price. I just thought there were vulnerabilities to the favorites here.
She's a big number, as you said. Here she comes. She's going to lead off this post parade, 17-1 for trainer Gustavo Delgado, and Manny Franco will be in the irons here trying to pick up the 3rd turf win of her career.
And when she was good, she had enough speed to lay close. So we'll maybe find out early if she can be a bit close with Manny from the rail.
Quarrel has been good going a little bit longer. Can she sprint?
Interestingly enough, they tried to sprint her in turf on the dirt in her first turf for the first 2 starts. She got rained off, but she's got some talent. But how good is she? And I don't love the turn back.
Off ramp, 10-1, Kinder Carmouche.
I thought this horse was a little bit dangerous. Her win 2 back at Ellis was good enough to give her a chance here.
Short price, Ever So Sweet.
She's the speed. People love speed. I get it. I'm just not sold.
Some of the other speed scratched.
Yeah, I'm not sold, but she's probably the horse to beat.
Union Dolly at 7-1 here, Ray Handel.
She's what they call last time was the time. She got a tremendous ride and trip in a race that completely fell apart in the front
Here's
end.
The South African Import States debut for Tom Pletcher.
She's the wild card. Is she sucking people in, or is she the overlay of the day at 5-2?
Glitter Up, big price, Ramiro Mirage.
Maggie likes this horse. I respect her opinion. I didn't really see it myself, but I have respect for Maggie, and she's a long shot.
And maybe can put some pressure on the big favorites. Cecile Lindsay Schultz, scratched. Here's the 10 Miss Bonnie T.
Yeah, she's probably an underlay at 54-1. All
right, so let's go back to Union Dolly.
Let's.
And that win from off the pace last time out, cutting back in distance, and you didn't love it.
This was that day that Dylan won 4 or 5 races and was a key part of pretty much every win. Price horses, getting fabulous rides. You saw he rode the rail, he cut the corner, was perfectly able to split. I mean, this is riding the turf to perfection. You've got to have the horse, and he did. But this was also a race where the pace completely incinerated. Look the way the race is being run. So she benefited from a brilliant ride, a great trip, and perfect dynamics in the race. And it's funny, looking at that race and looking at Saratoga races, I know a lot of people that have a closers, they'll go to Saratoga, I can't run. You know, they run 6 furlongs here, I can't run 5.5 at Saratoga. Yet I would argue that more races at 5.5 furlongs are won from behind on the turf than 6 furlong races are won here. It's not really about distance. It's about dynamics of races now they're run. In Saratoga, we often see some pretty quick paces in those turf sprints.
7-1 here. And obviously a much tougher spot as well than what she faced in that last start when she just got up to win.
And potentially a completely different dynamic as well, where there may not be an abundance of speed. So that works against her as well. And listen, you either got the money at 12-1 or you missed the boat. Do you really want to jump in at half the price against potentially a more difficult situation? I don't.
Well, one we do know who is going to be in front, probably setting that pace. Will it be by herself, or will there be company potentially with Glitter Up? Let's go to Maggie.
I'm assuming you meant Ever So Sweet. Greg, as she projects to be the main pace in here. Now, last time when she participated in that stake race, the Coronation Cup, she had to run without Lasix, right? She was really fired up in the paddock that day at Saratoga, too. It's like a theme with several horses on the card today. They're just a lot different in their behavior with the change of venue, with the addition of Lasix. And I'm saying that with Ever So Sweet. She's a lot more calm. She looks fantastic. And if she can get comfortable on the front end, then she could potentially be very, very dangerous. Let's check in with that long shot I am going to take. You're right, Greg, number 8, Glitter Up. I know. What do I see in her? Last race was god-awful. It was her first race back off of a 6-month layoff. It was against a pretty darn good field, including Roses for Deborah. Future Is Now is in raging form. Roses for Deborah actually came back and won the Prescott Downs Masters, too. And Glitter Up, she was checked back early, and then she had nothing. I get it. But she ran like a horse that A, needed it, and B, needed Lasix. She looks great here. She's warming up beautifully. She's fit. She's strong. She's everything you want to see. And I said, why not? She has some go-back races, I thought, that made her competitive here. And I think this is the right kind of spot for her. I do want to note, guys, I didn't tell our producers and directors that about the 2, but I want to make note for the 2 here with Coral. So you guys were mentioning a turn back. Kendrick Ramuch is literally 2-minute licking her back and forth. I mean, this is the most aggressive warm-up I've ever seen. Not that she's going to be on the lead necessarily, but he really has it in his mind that, well, turning back, I've really got to get her blood up. So I just thought just a striking warm-up out on the racetrack.
Jose Lezcano actually on Coral. But yeah, this horse, you mentioned it, sprinting, came on dirt. A couple of races came out. The horse actually sprinted okay on dirt, so why can we not assume the horse can sprint okay on turf?
Well, sprinting on the dirt and sprinting on the turf are 2 different animals, but I think it's a fair question. Trainer Bobby Robato tried to get this horse on turf the first 2 times it ran in turf sprints, and after that debut was 35 cents the dollar before sort of bombing the next time out off the turf. I mean, I think Bobby's probably thinking the same thing. The trainer, Bobby Robato, is probably thinking, well, I thought about spraying this horse early, as he started horses a lot that way, and we're not winning going longer. Let's try shorter. This race came up. That's fine. I think it's, listen, she's 7-1. So right there, it's not like he picked a bad spot for her. My problem is how good she is. I think if you like her in here, you're assuming she's going to improve cutting back. And in my experience, most horses don't. But that doesn't mean that she can't. Go ahead.
I mean, obviously she's better. I mean, we know she's good going long. I thought she was going to take a step forward. Third off a short layoff today. She paired up her last couple of figures, but we don't know. Sprinting, we just don't know.
She didn't get a particularly good ride last time because, and I don't even think it's Dylan's fault. It made that classic mistake that we see a lot of connections make. She ran off in her prior race, okay? And she ended up not running well. The problem was the next race she got in was completely devoid of speed.
It's a tough group, though, she was facing.
I agree, but she showed that she had the speed to be in front. And it's like, well, it didn't work out last time. Let's not do it. Well, she was in a race that was devoid of speed, so why not be more forward? And instead, they deliberately took her back at the start. It's like you can't be result-oriented. Just because a horse lost in the front end doesn't mean the next start that going to the front is the wrong thing to do. Every race is situational. And the next race she was in, there was absolutely no speed. Prerequisite went to the top, and the race was over. Over. And if she had been in the front, she still would have lost prerequisite, but she would have run better than she did in there. And I think a lot of times connections do this a lot. We ran poorly choosing these tactics this time. Well, we can't use them again the next time. And that's just not the way, at least I would think about it. I think you have to use, every situation is different, right? Or potentially different.
This one has not moved off 5-2.
It's 1 to 2-1 once, like one flash, I think. It's weird, right?
And again, so many different things. You look at figures she's running in South Africa, and it seems like she's a massive standout. We just don't know competition-wise what she's been facing and how it stacks up against this type of group.
The racing over there is good, though.
It is good.
And to me, you've got a layoff of, 9+ months, and you have a distance that you're not necessarily comfortable with. I think there's different schools of thought. One school of thought might be if she handles the distance in the layoff, I think she's better than these horses, and I'll take 5-2 to find out. I'm not going to argue with that. I don't think that's a terrible way to look at it. I didn't look at it that way, but I think she's very dangerous. I'll put it this way, Greg. Is she really that much less likely to win the 5?
I just don't know.
I'm not. I'm.
I would tell you, I would in no world. I have to use her just because you don't know in any kind of sequence you're playing.
Yeah, I think the 5 is overbet here. I'm just not convinced the 5 is that good. Maybe she ends up with a big pace advantage and wins. I didn't like her last race. She's a horse to beat.
Especially with the 4 coming out, though, doesn't that make her even more dangerous?
Probably, but was the 4 really going to put her, press her that hard? I picked her second. I get that she's kind of the horse to beat. I just don't think she's a great play at 4 to 5. That's why I picked the 1, because if I thought the 5 or 7 were, especially the 5 was that scary, I wouldn't have gone to the 1. But I think this field, this could be a little vulnerable. I won't be shocked if there's a bit of a goofy result.
7 Feather Boa, South African import. State's debut coming up for Tom Pletcher with Arad Ortiz Jr. 5-2 on the board, second choice. Will she live up to the hype? Let's go to Chris Griffin.
Bonnie T to the outside. And in. All set. And they're off. Broken and even line. Ever So Sweet puts a head in front, and Ever So Sweet now takes command. There's Isabel Alexandra. Tightly at the rail is now going to be a shared second up on the far outside. Here comes Glitter Up starting to move forward. That's the leading trio. Just off of them, Union Dolly is tucked in between rivals in fourth. Losing ground at the rail was Quarrel. Gets passed to the outside here from Miss Bonnie T. Has also got some forward momentum. There's Off Ramp in that mix, and the trailer is Feather Boa. 22.37 for the opening quarter mile. Ever So Sweet takes him into the far turn. Ever So Sweet with Glitter Up right there, engaged from second. Off Ramp has worked towards the outside, is in the 3-path, 3 wide here as they approach a quarter mile left to go. At the rail, Isabel Alexandra shoved along here from fourth. Union Dolly is trying to make up some ground from fifth. Miss Bonnie T. Feather Boa has got to pass the entire field with Quarrel. They reach the top of the lane. Ever So Sweet trying to put this one away. In full pursuit, here comes the run from Off Ramp, and Off Ramp is on the move. Here comes Off Ramp after Ever So Sweet. It is Off Ramp to the outside of Ever So Sweet. Feather Boa is launching a rally on the grandstand side, running out of time. Ever So Sweet now lunging. Ever So Sweet, very game. Ever So Sweet gets the victory. Ever So Sweet holds off the oncoming rush of Off Ramp, and Feather Boa, who was rolling in 1 minute 8 and 4.
Ever So Sweet on the front end with the win. The South African import runs big late, but comes up short.
Yeah, I mean, she got the right trip. The 3 tried her. Felt like she was going to get by her. Couldn't quite do it. The South African horse, as we suspected, she probably was a little bit distance compromised in this race. If it had been longer, she probably would have won, because considering the dynamics, she ran an extremely good race. I got a great ride from Manning on my 1. She just wasn't good enough. Unfortunately, I bet tries with her 3rd behind 3, 5, and 7, but not smart enough to bet any supers.
So Ever So Sweet, 4 to 5, able to control up front under Flavie and Pratt for Brad Cox and get this win, but excited to see Feather Boa next time out.
Yeah, I agree, and I know she won, and like I said, I picked her second. I'm not shocked she won. She didn't win like a 4 to 5 shot should. I think that she just won because she was running against, horses where she had a real pace advantage. And the 7, all the concerns we had proved to be true, right? She just wasn't necessarily a 6-furlong horse.
We're going to say goodbye to those watching on Fox Sports 2. Thanks for being with us. We're back with you on Thursday, 1 Eastern start time, and we'll have that John Hettinger, among other things.
Will you be here? I'll be here.
I'll be with you. I look forward to it.
I think we're on from like 1 to 3 on then, and like 1 later or something. Weird time.
I'll let you know next week.
All right.
I live day by day. We do know we start at 1 Eastern. We will see you then. I hope you enjoyed our Sunday program. Is still 1 race to come. You can follow along online, see how the rest of this card plays out, and we have a carryover coming up. Again, 1 Eastern start time next week, with the Angels ultra impressive in the debut at a short price for Linda Rice. And in the Bertram at Bongard, Sacrosanct, Brad Cox, Lady Sheila Stable Silks, and Manny Franco. Impressive as well, now 2 for 2 for trainer Brad Cox.
More
War Dancer, New York's leading turf sire for a third straight year with Saratoga standouts like 26 Black.
Here's 26 Black surging by them all to win it by a neck.
As well as Busy Morning.
Busy Morning in front, and Busy Morning wins it.
And wire-to-wire victor, Tourjete.
Tourjete all the way to score.
New York's #1 turf sire again in 2024. Shouldn't you have a War Dancer? War Dancer, proud to stand in New York.
There's a passion in this game that grabs you. It'll make you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 7 days a week, and you will not be able to let go.
I'm so blessed to do what I do. I don't lose sight of that for a half a second ever. I get to train horses for a living.
If you've never experienced a race, you need to experience it, and then tell me that it doesn't get your heart pounding.
It needs to be in a bucket list for everybody to come to the races and get as close as you can to the rail. Just hear those horses going by.
It's like a thunderstorm coming. I mean, it's like electric, and it just shoof, it whisks past you.
Those that are in it and have experienced it, that pulls at you to where you can't let it go.
Okay, there's heaven for horses. This is heaven. I've lived it and seen it. It's really special here.
Racetrack Television Network brings you every race, from every track, on every screen, every day. With monthly packages starting as low as $5, RTN gives you great value and access to more live HD streaming and race replays than anyone. Visit RTN.TV today to sign up.